We are live.
Hello, everyone. This is your Deputy Supervisor, Sylvia Overby, sitting in for Peter Van Scoyac, who's having computer trouble, so hopefully he will join us very soon. Welcome to the work session. This is August 18th. And we will start with the roll call. So, Carol, will you please do our roll call?
Councilwoman Burke Gonzalez.
Present.
Councilman Lease.
Present.
Councilwoman Overby.
Here.
Councilman Bragman.
All right, will we please stand for the, do we have everybody good? Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So let me just go over the topics that we're going to have today. So the first portion of the meeting will be the public portion. The call-in number is 351-888-6331. It should be on your screen if you would like to call in. The topics today will be, first is bids from Gene Carrozza. We will be discussing electric leaf blower legislation. This will be led by it's from the Energy Sustainability Committee and by Lauren Steinberg from our Resources Department. And we will be talking about hurricane preparedness, and I believe that's from the supervisor. We will then have liaison reports and resolutions to consider. So I see that the supervisor is back on. And Peter, can you hear us?
I can hear you. My link dropped and I had to completely reboot my system.
Okay.
So I don't know where we are in the meeting. Obviously, you didn't skip a beat. You've given an introduction. Have we come to order and done roll call?
We have come to order. We've done roll call, Pledge of Allegiance, and we've gone through the topics for today, and we're up to public portion if there's anyone on the online.
Do we have?
No, there are currently no phone callers, but I'll let you know if we get any.
So, Mike, is the number up on the screen as well?
Yes, it is. 351-888-6331.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So I was going to give a brief update as to where we stand regarding COVID. New York State's infection rate is now below 1% positive for 10 consecutive days. Here in Suffolk County, the new positives as of 8/16 were 26 out of 3,839 tests given. That's 0.7%. There are 43 people hospitalized countywide for COVID. There were 4 new admissions in the county. And again, there's roughly 1.5 million people living in Suffolk County. Because of our continued progress in fighting off the disease, I am announcing today that the Unified Incident Command Structure will be dissolved. This was instituted when there's an ongoing emergency crisis as part of our emergency preparedness and responsiveness plan. The chain of command to effectively manage the crisis and interface with outside agencies and internal departments is headed by the supervisor, myself, the chief of police, Mike Sarlo, and our emergency preparedness coordinator, Bruce Bates. And I just want to take a moment to thank Bruce Bates, our emergency preparedness coordinator, and the chief, Mike Sarlo, for all of their excellent work, their commitment to keeping the public safe, and aiding me in managing the town during this crisis. Their service has been invaluable to the town, and we all owe them a great debt of gratitude for their very long hours and hard work that all put in. We broke up the existing town structure in order to better communicate and effectively deal with the crisis during this emergency. The operations, which include public safety, the police department, EMS, fire, and public works, were all maintained by the UIC command, the supervisor, PD, and emergency preparedness, as well as logistics, There was a continuation of town business that was headed up, and Sylvia and Jeff, I want to thank you for managing those departments and being the liaison to the UIC during that time. And, we had David Lease and Kathy Burke-Gonzalez liaising between Human Services and Public Works and whatnot. Those operations were critical to addressing the immediate needs of the community. I'll make note that Human Services particularly served the human needs within the town, having cooked over 20,000 meals for seniors and shut-ins throughout the town during this period of time. It's an amazing response. David Lease was responsible for working with getting signage up, dealing with critical infrastructure, making sure that there are beaches opened and that they were maintained in a proper fashion to protect the general public. Also, Sylvia Overby heading the Business Recovery Committee, along with myself, helped businesses reopen in a safe manner. And we've made some adjustments, obviously relaxing some zoning laws to allow for outdoor dining, and have worked directly with business leaders in the business community to try and get back on our feet. So at this point, we're still looking in really great shape. And I think I'm confident that we can go back to our existing town structure, reassign all the liaisons that previously were in place before, and return to more normal operations here at Town Hall. So again, I want to thank everyone. This has really been a remarkable turnaround. Again, going from the epicenter of the worldwide pandemic to now being less than 1% positive. While we see the rest of the country, various areas, exploding, we certainly hope that that those areas will receive the same type of strong leadership that we've had here in New York, with Governor Cuomo really stepping up to the plate and helping us recover quickly. So without any more ado, I'd like to just move on with our agenda items. If we don't have any public comments at this point.
We do actually, Mr. Supervisor. There are 2 callers on hold.
Great. Let's go to the public comments.
All right. I'm unmuting the first caller right now. Hello, caller. Are you there? You're with the Town Board of East Hampton.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, Town Board. This is Jim McMillan from Amagansett. I hope everybody's doing well.
Morning, Jim.
I'm very, very... Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for calling in.
I'm good. I'm thrilled to death that we're actually going to be discussing some sort of leaf blower legislation. I think that's wonderful. I think some of you might remember some of my desperate pleas for help within the last 10 or 15 years with a sort of a neighbor who gives the appearance of having severe mental problems on his daily leaf blower use, standing out in Hurricane Sandy, blowing leaves back into the wind and all that. But that's something totally different. During the time, I thought we might have been a help to you guys, and I was doing lots and lots of research. And some of the things, I'll go quick, this won't be long. Some of the things I discovered is the amount of pollution these 2-cycle engines cause from these leaf blowers. Half the fuel doesn't get burned in a 2-cycle engine, and as a result, we're putting carcinogenic toxins into the air, which settle on the ground and eventually work their way into the groundwater. So that's one thing about a safety issue. There are companies like Sperber, for instance. They come to a neighbor half-acre property. They're standing in the driveway for 20 minutes because there's a leaf in the gravel with these 3 leaf blowers going like you would not believe. So the health hazards are there. These fumes come into people's homes, into their properties. People walking their dogs, pushing their strollers. They're out in the streets. So I think if we look at this as a major safety issue, we might take a different perspective on it. I know that the landscapers will show up in mass to say, oh, no, we need to make a living, but, there's a reason we don't burn leaves anymore in our yards because of what it does to the neighbors. There's a reason we don't encourage paid mercenaries to continue killing people because, it hurts people's lives. So we can't really allow this occupation to continue damaging people and our health and our groundwater. In addition to that, it is quite a public nuisance. You know what it's like to work all day long, come home at 6 o'clock, and now they're just pulling up, blowing leaves into the dark. So you don't even get to use your property anymore. So those are 2 things I'd like to mention. In addition to that, Major advances with the electric leaf blowers over the years. Batteries hold longer charges. You can buy several batteries. They work beautifully. They're strong. They don't create that swirling sound, which triggers something known as a fight or flight pattern in human beings, which means either you're going to fight someone with that leaf blower or you're going to run away. If you're trapped in your house, you can't run away. So that's why it creates a lot of anger, because it does trigger and release negative hormones in the human body. So again, I'm glad to be of any help. Sylvia, if you need help to do research or things, I'll be glad to do it and let you present it in your nice manner. But I'm very happy I'll be discussing it. And by the way, one last thing. It shouldn't really matter who the user is. The effect is the same on the neighbors and the environment. So whether an owner says, I want to keep doing it, or it's a landscaping company, that shouldn't really matter. It should be because the machine and its devastating effects on the environment and the public nuisance it creates. So I hope that made sense, and I just wanted to offer that.
Thanks so much for calling in and giving us your opinion, Jim. Appreciate it.
All righty. Thank you. And there's a lot of facts. I'll be glad to supply if you need any additional information.
Great. Stay tuned for the discussion.
All right. Thank you.
Michael, do we have any other callers on the
We
line?
do. We have one more caller, which I'll be unmuting right now.
Hi, Peter. It's Rona Klopman from Amagansett, and I just heard Jim speaking, and I want to reiterate that I support legislation as well for the leaf blowers. I have a neighbor who must be frightened by a leaf because she has a guy come every Friday for 5 hours. All he does is blow the leaves on her property. To me, in this time of COVID, it's blowing around stuff that shouldn't be blowing around, but it's very annoying, the noise. But the reason why I called is because the last meeting when I called in, you made a comment that you've never given money to committees and we're asking at ACAC to help the community out with money for the post office so we could put flyers in the mailboxes. And when I went into resolutions, because I remembered watching meetings where the Arts Council and the Energy Sustainability Committee was given money, and I did see several resolutions where they were given a lot of money. So I thought you would have a discussion this morning about the possibility of providing money for the Amagansett community so we could get a feedback from the community as to whether they want mail delivery.
Yeah, I think, Ron, I was referring to the advisory committees, the citizens advisory committees. I'm not aware of any transfer funds for any purpose to advisory committees, but the board will take that up.
Well, isn't the Energy Sustainability Committee an advisory committee?
It's not a citizens advisory committee. I was referring to the citizens like ACAC, Wainscott Citizens Advisory, Montauk Citizens Advisory.
There's always a first if it's a good cause for the community, and this is to hear the voices of the community. And we would like to put flyers in every mailbox. As I said, it's $400 to pay the post office so we can do that as a community and get the responses from people. Not just one person saying, my neighbor doesn't want it, but we want to get a response from the whole community, and we're going to set up a Zoom meeting. Wherever I go, I have a petition in my car. People grab it, and they just want to sign it. They want mail delivery. The post office is very small. It's not a safe place for us to go and get packages and wait 30 minutes inside. People are not waiting outside, even though there's a sign on the door. They're waiting inside because it's air conditioned. And it seems to me the board should be discussing it. It's not a tremendous sum of money, considering what the town board has given to the Arts Council and the Energy Sustainability Committee. So I'd love for you to have a discussion. I think you had said you would, but it's not on the agenda.
Thank you, Rhonda. We'll certainly take your request into consideration.
Does that mean there'll be a discussion?
I don't think we're going to discuss it today, unless the board members want to weigh in. I think,
Well,
you know,
it would be nice
what
if
I would
you-
suggest, what I would suggest is maybe a little bit more research as to what it would take to actually get home delivery for a hamlet, and then
well,
to see.
we need to get a start. A beginning is to get the flyers in the mailbox and get the feelings of the community. That's a first. Then it goes to the post office when we have a considerable amount of opinions of the community. It's really just to get started. It's a first that we need the money for the post office flyers. And then we'll have this meeting in September 14th. We have to let the community know, and the best way to do it is to drop flyers in the mailboxes.
So I understand that there are a couple of, there are a couple of areas in town that do not have mail delivery, and perhaps rather than just single out one area, maybe. Excuse me, Rona. Rona, if you just please let me finish my statement, and then I'll, let you comment. Perhaps rather than just reaching out to one area of town that may want home delivery, perhaps we should look at that in a comprehensive way and see if perhaps areas of Montauk who are in the same situation, a small post office under, the same circumstances without home delivery, if perhaps Montauk residents would also want home delivery, and to look at that process in a more comprehensive way. And then perhaps what we should do, Rona, is schedule a work session agenda topic of home delivery within the town.
Well, I understand Montauk does get home delivery. And you can choose to take a post office box if you don't want it. That's what I'm under the impression.
We don't know.
I think Carol's shaking her head yes.
You're a little bit of Montauk does. You're not sure.
I've heard complaints about there not being home delivery, so that's why I brought it up.
Oh, well, no, I heard that you have it actually with the post office here in Amagansett. You can choose to either have a post office box or to get home delivery. The question is that we don't get home delivery at all. Nobody in Amagansett gets home delivery. And Montauk, you can get home delivery, and if you don't want it, you can go to the post office. It's your choice.
I just want to make a comment, and that is, I don't think it's a terrible idea to allocate this money. I think she wanted about $300, and if Amagansett wants to lead the way for that hamlet, it might be a good way to jumpstart a larger discussion. So I'd be in favor of doing it. I think it's.
David, you're the liaison to Amagansett CAC. Is the CAC made a formal request to the town board at this point?
I haven't received the
CAC discussed or voted on whether or not they want this to happen?
The CAC has been discussing home delivery for about the last 2 months. It's an idea that's, been exasperated because of decisions in the federal government right now where there's delays, buildup, clearly stated. I think all United States Postal Service locations are going through some type of stress right now. And I do feel for not just the individuals that are working there, but also for the individuals that are going to our small locations. I did personally reach out to Steve Ballone and his chief of staff to get a letter to address this to the Long Island regional director, and that letter had to go directly then to our state senator, Congressman Lee Zeldin, who responded back, who got a response for them. The discussion was then again there was a subcommittee from the Amagansett CAC about actually trying to start a petition drive, which is one of the active ways that you can actually see if the United States Postal Service would like to look at this, also see if it's a financial viability of doing so. Mm-hmm. Some areas haven't been successful. There's some anecdotal stories about locations that have been sent to me from Rhode Island or other places But a lot of it comes down to business financial matters. Also, there's a need out here. I'm not doubting that there's a need. The discussion then morphed into how can we have a larger discussion with not just the dozen individuals or a rough number that were on the Zoom CAC meeting, but get a larger portion of the community to discuss it.
The reason I'm asking is that, the advisory committees discuss these sort of topics, and then they usually send a letter to
I have not received any letter.
Town board. I've not received anything myself, so that's why I'm asking about this, rather than just one individual, bringing the topic up repeatedly. I'm sorry.
I agree. I just want to say, I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah, so I think, if, we get that kind of a response from the CAC, then we can take it up and make a decision about it. It's not, we've yet to receive any kind of formal request or letter from the CAC. So until we complete that.
We were relying on the liaison. We did a resolution, which I'm writing the minutes of because I'm secretary. We did a resolution. Everybody at the meeting was all for it. So it was unanimous, and we were counting on David Lease for last Tuesday's meeting to be.
We look forward to seeing the letter. Thank you.
I'm missing this.
I'm sure
what happened to the resolution?
So normally a resolution would be passed and then we'd get a letter from the CAC. We get letters all the time from Wainscott CAC, from Montauk CAC. I've not received the letter yet. So again, the purpose of the advisory committee is to
tell Chances to write the letter. I'll tell the chance to write the letter.
Don't mail it, email it.
All right. Okay. Yeah, well, I'm sure Jim can do that. But we were counting on David Lease to be emphatic about what
Jim
we
was
wanted,
just on the phone, and he didn't mention. Jim was just on the phone about leaf blowers and did not mention it. So,
and I did mention it to the town board and liaison report, as you noted last week.
Yeah, but you weren't emphatic about how important it was, David. With all due respect.
Well, again, I think the importance of it by actually receiving.
I think if you saw what my response was in the paper and article, then too, I'm supportive of it. Emphatic. If I don't have balloons behind me right now, I think we got that. I think we have the message here. Thanks for calling, Rona. We look forward to receiving the letter.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Have a good day. Do we have any other callers on the line, Mike?
Yes, we do. I will be unmuting the next caller right now.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. It's Russell Stein. How are you doing?
Russell.
How are you?
I'm looking at the screen and every face is familiar. I know every face on that screen, and that's a good thing. It really is, and they're all good-looking people too. Anyway,
are you
I talked to David last week. I'm sorry?
What's your ask?
I'm glad like we don't have two-way video. No, well, it's true though. That's because we don't have two-way video. You wouldn't want to see this face.
Yeah, I look better on radio, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a face for radio. That's what people tell me. I mentioned this to David last week. I saw him and I asked him about this, and he said, it's on for Tuesday. You need to try to get on. So I've never done the Zoom. I've never done any of these things. But here I am because all I wanted to do was thank Sylvia and everybody else who's pushing or putting forward this leaf blower legislation. I live on a small lot. I'm surrounded by a dozen mega mansions that have been built over the last 25 years. I've been here 49 years in this house. And in the last 25 years, I got 12 new neighbors on 1 acre or as close. And every one of them is over-groomed and super-groomed. And 12 months a year, they're blowing leaves off in January and February. I mean, it's just amazing how people want to dominate that acre. And while they're doing it, they're just making other houses unlivable next to them, hour after hour. Some days here, I get 3 and 4 on one day in consecutive lot after lot. You're talking 8 hours of these leaf blowers. And so, as I mentioned to David, out in LA, they banned all of this 10 years ago, mostly for air quality reasons. They were having terrible smog even after they regulated the automobiles, and it was coming from the two-cycle blowers and mowers. And so anyway, they banned the whole thing in the city of Los Angeles, all times, at all times of year, at all places. And nobody died. And as a matter of fact, hundreds of people came to the public hearing and brought rakes and said, here's what we got to go back to. So I'm not suggesting you can do that here. It may be too late, for one thing. It's a whole industry. But you got to look at the village, try to see what they did, and then modify it. I don't like parts of it, but at least they made an attempt to render people's homes and neighborhoods livable for at least part of the time. And in the summer, everybody's here for 3 months or 4 months. They have their windows open, and they're trying to enjoy the properties they cocked their life for. And they want to sit outdoors, and they want to be outdoors, and you just can't do it anymore. So I appreciate what you're doing, and that's my take on this.
Thanks
so
for
I've joined
taking
the digital age. Thank
I
you.
have to say, I grew up raking leaves very badly, but as an adult, I've made peace with leaves, and they just go wherever they're going to go. I don't use leaf blowers. I remember
Unless
just
your
being
neighbor puts them on
tormented
your lawn
about.
every week.
No, his neighbor doesn't blow his leaves, but maybe once, possibly twice a year.
I wish I had that neighbor.
In fact, his neighbor's lawn really is more of a meadow restoration than a lawn.
That would be you, Peter,
That
right?
would be me. Yeah, I'm happy to share.
I don't even want to talk about lawn. I don't think I have a lawn.
Peter?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to insert one last thing from the old days, from back in the day.
Okay.
If I could.
Please.
Back in the 80s, when I was where you guys are now, I flew with Judith Hope to Nantucket to see their CPF thing, their real estate tax thing. They already had it going to save open space. And we went out there, and one of the things in their code, way back then in the 80s, was they prohibited the banging of nails. I mean, they prohibited outdoor carpentry during what they called the high season. And I'm just saying the same thing here. I've just had a morning here that's just like the last 2 weeks where new owners of a house across the street decided to build a new deck or porch and do it by cutting stone. And so I had 2.5 weeks of somebody 200 feet away with a stone cutter in August. Mm-hmm. I mean, they could come back in November, couldn't they? I mean, it's just not fair. All the houses are occupied. I'm not talking COVID year, all the houses are occupied. In the summer, they're all occupied no matter what kind of year it is. And a summer moratorium makes total sense. It would even get 10% of the industrial traffic off the highway. The people who are just coming to make noise. I'm not talking about painting. I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about banging nails and cutting rocks outside in July and August. That's all. Thank you.
Understood, Russell. It's nice to hear from you. Be well. Thanks for taking the time to call us. Do we have any other callers, Michael?
Yes, we have one more caller on hold. I will be unmuting them right now.
Great. Thank you.
Hello again, Town Board. This is Jim Macmillan back. Quick thing
Hi,
about
Jim.
that. Hi there. What the last caller just said. Yeah, that's been going on all over here in the Amagansett Lanes with the small properties, listening to that. And to be honest with you, this is probably not politically correct, but I really don't care that a builder has to wait to the fall to start building. They're making at least $1 million, if not $2 million a pop on every one of these construction projects at the cost of the residential people who want to enjoy peaceful, quiet use of their property. So that's a big concern. That kind of stuff should be done in the commercial industrial area, not wedged in between residential. But anyway, I didn't want to go into the postal delivery because I didn't want to dilute the focus on the leaf blower situation, but I just wanted to throw two quick comments in. We did at ACAC all agree that we wanted David to go back and ask you for funding. He didn't ask for a letter. We thought he would just bring it up to you and discuss and see how we can go about doing that. But if you want a letter, we'll do it. That was not told to us at our meeting, so we thought he would just come to you with it. But I didn't see that at the last
Yeah,
work session too much.
I think it's good to memorialize it. Just please send the letter if you don't mind. All the other
Yeah, no, I don't
CAs.
mind. I just wish we were told that before, and I'll gladly do that. So that's
Great.
the only thing. And, we desperately need that mail delivery, and most people I speak to are for it. And even though we understand there's a cost thing here, things are going to change in the fall and next year. They're trying to allocate $25 billion to the post office. Things will change, but we need to get our ducks in a row now. I spent 3 weeks on the phone with all the heads up in the Melville district office, and this is the procedure they told us we have to do. Start with the petition, and then I have a whole bunch of other steps once we get a substantial amount of signatures.
If you could
So
share
that's
that
why we just asked for that money. I don't
Jim,
mind if ACAC chips in and does it ourselves, but we thought, well, let's just ask the town board and see how it goes.
Jim, if you've done that research, anything you could share with us rather than us duplicating that would be really helpful. So,
I'll forward you that along with I'll forward you that along with the letter for the funding. How's that?
Terrific. I really appreciate it.
Okay, good. All right,
That
very
helped
good.
a lot.
That's why I just wanted to clarify. We did ask, and I didn't think we needed a letter at the time, but
Yeah,
I'll
we
be glad to
usually
do it.
like
That's
that.
all.
I think it's always best if you memorialize the request with that the other
In
CAC.
future, I absolutely will. Absolutely.
Okay, thanks
very
so much.
good. Thank you. Okay,
Thanks
bye-bye.
for taking the time to call us. Michael, any other callers online?
No, we do not.
Okay. We'll take this little pause in public comment to move on with our first agenda item, which is bids. We have Jeannie Carrozza, I believe, in the waiting room. Michael,
Yes.
if you cue Jeannie in.
I'm letting her in right now.
And we'll try to take callers throughout the meeting. If anyone shows up on your hold, just send me a little chat message and we'll try to fit them in.
I will do that.
Thank you so much.
There's
Good morning, Jeannie.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So, Jeannie, you have some bids to present?
Yes, I
to us?
do. Yep. We're still rolling right along here. The first couple are for the airport. The first is for miscellaneous lighting, signage repairs and replacement. Baseline King is the apparent low bidder, and the amount is $170,330. The next is for aircraft apron lighting improvements, and that's with New York Trenchless Inc. in the amount of $63,028.80. The next bid is Sag Harbor Stormwater Abatement, Bay Street and Marine Park. The apparent low bidder for that is Laser Industries Inc. in the amount of $389,426. And lastly is the purchase and delivery of a commercial electric lawnmower, and that's Mean Green Products in the amount of $28,921. And I spoke with Tom Rule this morning. I'm working on a resolution to get in for the Camp Hero Wastewater Systems and Operation Maintenance Service contract, and that's with Clear River Environmental Service, and that's basically a time and material. So when things go wrong, we have a company to call in to do the work.
Any questions for Jeannie?
Yeah, just about the electric lawnmower. I know that was in the capital budget line on that.
Yes.
I'm extremely happy about that. I'm extremely happy that the town board has moved forward with that in the capital budget. And I think the synchronicity of having a discussion today with that shows the way that the leadership of the town is trying to be environmentally savvy here. So there's good karma there.
Thanks.
Thanks, David. Any other questions for Jeannie?
No.
Thanks so much, Jeannie.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. Good to see you.
Enjoy your day. Thanks.
You too.
So that brings us up to the hot topic of today, which is the electric leaf blower legislation, and Councilwoman Overby, along with Natural Resources Department staff, Lauren Steinberg, I believe, are going to present this. So if you could bring Lauren in.
I'm bringing Lauren in now, and additionally, I have a Paul Munez
Yep, free to call in.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I don't know if Lena Tabori is
Yes.
also going to join us, who's the head of the Energy Sustainability Committee. And I really want to thank the Energy Sustainability Committee and the leadership there that really is pushing electric uses for a lot of different issues on the town, in the town. So thank them, and Lauren Steinberg, thank you for your leadership as well, and for diving into this and being able to present us with this presentation. So
The electric leaf blower legislation and Councilwoman Overby.
Excuse me, just a quick tech difficulties. If anyone's on the Zoom, please mute all output of this meeting, like a web broadcast or a television broadcast in the background. Sylvia?
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to turn this over to Lauren for her to go through a PowerPoint that we can discuss, and it'll be shared on the screen, so that if there are any questions, then I think, and we can also then put this on the website if anyone has questions in the future for this. So Lauren, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sylvia. So the Town of East Hampton Energy Sustainability Committee is making a recommendation to the town board regarding the use of gasoline and diesel-powered leaf blowers in East Hampton. And so I'm going to just share a few slides, if that is okay. Okay, so gas and diesel leaf blowers have a range of harmful effects on the environment, human health, and community atmosphere and peace. The air emissions include carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, and volatile organic compounds. Nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds, when in contact with heat and sunlight, produce ground-level ozone pollution. And the American Lung Association reports that even short-term exposure to ozone pollution can lead to cardiac issues, pulmonary disease, and death. In addition, the amount of carbon monoxide emitted from the backpack leaf blower in just 1 hour is equal to the carbon monoxide emitted from the tailpipe of a car running for 8 hours. And besides them being a nuisance, studies have shown that the noise produced from some gas and diesel-powered leaf blowers can exceed levels known to cause hearing damage in the ears of the operator and those in the vicinity up to 50 feet away. Fuel spills and leaks are also common occurrences with the use of gas and diesel leaf blowers, which can be polluting to the air as well as ground and surface waters. Alternative options to gas and diesel powered leaf blowers include electric plug-in and rechargeable battery powered models. Electric has many advantages over gas and diesel. Electric leaf blowers do not pose the health and environmental hazards that gas and diesel do. They produce zero emissions and are quieter. They also have lower operation and maintenance costs. Electric equipment is comparable to gas and diesel in performance of routine maintenance common throughout the summer. Many municipalities have implemented bans or restrictions on the use of gas and diesel powered leaf blowers. In 2019, the Village of Southampton adopted and implemented restrictions on the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. Their restrictions include a ban on the use of gas leaf blowers from May 20th to September 20th. And during the months of the year in which gas leaf blowers can be used, their use is permitted only between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Saturday, and use is prohibited on Sundays and state and federal holidays. In addition to these curfews, no more than a total of 2 handheld or backpack leaf blowers may be used at a time unless the property being cleaned is greater than a half an acre, and walk-behind leaf blowers may not be used unless the property being cleaned is greater than a half an acre. These restrictions apply to landscapers, residents, beach and tennis clubs, and municipal employees. The exception to these restrictions is that gas-powered leaf blowers may be used when responding to an emergency or cleanup after a major storm when the mayor has declared a state of emergency. And similar to the Village of Southampton, the Village of East Hampton has also found that the use of gas and diesel-powered leaf blowers harmful and disturbing. Adopted in 2019 and implemented in 2020, East Hampton Village restrictions include that between June 1st and the second Friday of December, the operation of any gas or diesel powered leaf blowers is permitted only between the hours of 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. on Saturdays, and 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. on Sundays and federal holidays. These restrictions apply to landscapers and residents, with the added caveat that landscapers cannot use gas or diesel leaf blowers on Sundays or federal holidays. In addition to the curfews, the use of gas or diesel-powered leaf blowers is prohibited from June 1st to Labor Day by landscapers. And East Hampton Village also has the exception that gas-powered leaf blowers may be used when responding to an emergency or cleanup after a major storm when the mayor has declared a state of emergency. The town of North Hempstead also implemented this year restrictions to the use of gas-powered leaf blowers that consists of elements from both East Hampton and Southampton Village's laws. And the town of Southampton is considering following in the footsteps of the village, and their sustainability committee presented to the town board on this subject earlier this year. The villages also have required landscapers who work within their jurisdiction to register annually. The registration helps the villages know which landscapers are properly licensed and insured, and ensures that landscapers understand the noise and leaf blower laws that are in place within that jurisdiction. Registration includes a fee that varies depending on if the landscaper is an individual or a company. And it also requires that landscapers provide proof of a home improvement license, proof of completion of a Suffolk County nitrogen turf management course if they're using fertilizer products, and a DEC certificate if using regulated pesticides or chemicals. The village issues tags that must be displayed on all landscaping vehicles used within their villages. And now I'm actually going to turn it over to Lena Tafori, one of the chairs of the Energy Sustainability Committee, who's going to present the committee's recommendation on gas and diesel leaf blowers to the town board.
You're on mute, Lena.
No, I'm unmuted now.
There.
So first of all, I'd just like to say hello and thank you to all of the board members who I haven't presented in front of at all yet. So this is a great moment for me. I want to say that the Energy Sustainability Committee is fairly devoted to the idea of everything moving electric, everything. The gas blower recommendation that we made is the first of what I hope will be many that will, usually I would love it if the town were first in creating something dramatic and brilliant. In this particular case, we take a lot of support from the fact that Southampton has done something similar and the village of East Hampton has done something similar, and Sag Harbor is talking about something similar as well. But I believe that in the conversations that we have all had internally on this particular recommendation, we've gone a little bit farther and taken our community a little more specifically into consideration. So if you can stand it, I would like to read the recommendation carefully. It will end with the point which will lead me to introduce you to the vice chairman of our group, Paul Munez. And in the meantime, we drafted this on May 14th. I'm amazed that we've been able to move it so rapidly within COVID and all the other things that you have had on your plate. But I'm delighted because ultimately, if we can move this to legislation, it will basically affect us next year in any case. So it reads, to the members of the East Hampton Town Board, the Energy Sustainability Committee recognizes its responsibility in aiding the town to reach its goal of meeting the equivalent of 100% of annual community-wide energy consumption, such as electricity, heating, and transportation with renewable energy sources by the year 2030. This is a huge reach for the town. I'm just saying in parentheses. And this is a small movement in that direction, but nonetheless, it's an important one. Therefore, the committee, in its role of reviewing and advising the town board on policies, programs, and issues promoting energy efficiency and environmental sustainability in the town of East Hampton, is now recommending the adoption of a local law minimizing the use of gas and diesel leaf blowers throughout the town of East Hampton. Studies have found that gas and diesel leaf blowers can have harmful effects on the health of the operator, the public, and the environment. I'm not going to read all of those effects again because Lauren so well covered them in her introduction. I will only say that noise has generally been the element that has brought towns to pass legislation against gas blowers. And we certainly understand that. And I love hearing from Jim McMillan earlier about his perspective on that as well. I will only say that the more we looked into the whole subject, the more we were completely blown away by the pollution, the gas leakage, and the effect on the person who's using the leaf blower. So it's not only the air pollution of the people in the environment or the noise that affects the neighbors, it is also the really devastating effects that it has on the people that are actually utilizing the equipment. So skipping over that particular paragraph and just having my thoughts in its place, I will go on to say, alternative options to gas and diesel powered leaf blowers include electric plug-in and rechargeable models. Electric leaf blowers are comparable in performance with few exceptions and have many advantages over gas and diesel, such as health benefits and lower operation and maintenance costs. Electric leaf blowers are also quieter and produce zero emissions, which is safer for the operator and the community. Therefore, electric leaf blowers are perfectly suitable for regular maintenance jobs. It's common throughout the summer. Many municipalities have instituted bans or restrictions on the use of them. And again, I'm not going to read the rest of that paragraph because Lauren has covered that so well. And I will go on to say that the committee is asking the town board to legislate the following. Gas and diesel powered leaf blowers shall not be in use between May 20th and September 20th. Gas and diesel powered leaf blowers may be used from September 21st until May 19th. And then there are specific hours in the days that are covered in this recommendation. The restrictions governing the use of gas and diesel leaf blowers shall also apply to beach, golf, tennis clubs, and municipal employees. Gas and diesel powered leaf blowers may be used when responding to an emergency or cleanup after a major storm when the supervisor has declared a state of emergency. In addition to the time limits above, walk-behind leaf blowers may not be used unless the property that is being cleaned is greater than a half an acre. No more than a total of 2 handheld backpack or walk-behind leaf blowers may be used at a time unless the property that is being cleaned is greater than a half an acre. The use of gas or diesel generators to power electric leaf blowers shall not be permitted. Additionally, the committee recommends that the town require annual registrations. And these are going to be very similar to what Lauren has already pointed out. So I'm not going to burden you with listening to all of that. Lastly, it should be noted that the committee is not asking the town to replace all gas blowers at this time for only one reason. Currently, there are no electric leaf blowers on the market which match the most powerful gas blowers in performance or duration. This power and duration is still required for storm, fall, and spring cleanup only. When electric leaf blowers are available, which are comparable to the most powerful gas blowers in performance and duration, the committee recommends that the town make a full transition to electric. So this recommendation was written after a tremendous amount of research and definitely with the help of Lauren and other cities that have come, other municipalities that have come before us. Within the committee, we had a lot of discussion about whether or not there are electric gas blowers that are already available to do the work of gas leaf blowers. And I would like to ask Paul Munez, who we fortunately have a landscaper within our committee, and that's Paul, who's also our vice chairman, and perhaps he can speak to that. Paul.
Okay. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Paul Munoz, and I do have a landscaping business here in East Hampton, and I am the vice chair for the committee. Basically, I just wanted to start off by saying that this takes a lot of education on behalf of both the client and the operator. But I think that once those points are accepted, then this is a no-brainer, and it is something that's accepted. My clients have sought me out because of the fact that I offer this service. And I know maybe a few years ago, that wasn't the case. And my experience with speaking with local landscapers is that the cost is basically the biggest deterrent from this. But I'd just like to say to them, and I'm open and I have made myself available to them to educate them on this, that you're basically buying your fuel upfront in the cost of the machine, because then it's offset by no fuel costs, no mix, and no maintenance. So, but as far as the power and the runtime is concerned, the blowers, the gas-powered blowers do offer the convenience that you can carry around your gas and mix, and anytime it empties out, then you could just fill it up, as opposed to carrying numerous batteries around, which for this equipment, the batteries are the most expensive part of the equipment. So that's why I am in favor of just doing a ban for the summer, as opposed to what some people brought up, that we should just completely ban the gas blowers in general. So we have to be realistic and take it with what technology offers us. So if you guys have any questions in particular, then I'd be happy to answer anything that you may have for me.
Well, I was going to ask a question about that that very statement that you just made. That I was going to say, why are you continuing their use in, I guess, the late fall in the winter months? And that's just to help with the transition, because a lot of landscapers have the equipment. Is that what I'm getting?
Well, I attended a few meetings at Southampton before Southampton implemented this, and it seems to be partly because of that, because they have invested so much equipment. You know, I can't speak for them because I started my business completely electric as opposed to converting. So I gotta put myself in their shoes and gotta be understanding of that. But at the same time, I feel like there should be no future investments in something, in a dying technology, like something that's going to become obsolete. So I think it works both ways. And definitely for fall cleanups and storm cleanups, which we just had one a few weeks ago, you do need gas. So we have to be realistic about that. But we could do a big impact by eliminating gas from May to September 20th.
So it's also partly because the fall cleanups are the bigger jobs.
Yes, yes.
Are the bigger jobs.
And you have wet leaves, which is a lot heavier, and some gas blowers can't handle them. So
and there's also, Paul, this is David Lease again. It's the material that comes down, the volume of the material that comes off the trees in the fall is much different than
exactly.
In the summertime. There's pine needles, there's wet leaves that come out. There's actually more humidity in the air, or wetness that comes with some of those leaves when they start rotting. But then when you also have to think about it, is that if you don't have the power of the machine, that's more time, more fossil fuels being burnt by the practitioner, and that cost then gets deferred to the actual homeowner that might be paying for it. If you have a piece of machinery that can't get the job done in an amount of time, the homeowner is going to be the one that's going to be paying for the landscaper's time in the end too. So these are all considerations just to be thought about too.
It is, but at the same time, I'm going to bring up a point that Lena brought up. I feel like this, if this passes, that's great because the landscapers will get on board. But I also feel that the town has to set an example, and that would make it a lot easier for the landscapers to follow. And
I agree. And Paul, I want to say, when I met you, Paul, at the Eco Fair, that's where you took a ride on your electric lawnmower.
Yes.
On that day that you were showing, and it was a very visual and firsthand experience of the sounds, the noise, the operational capacity of this equipment and technology, and it led to us actually, you just heard, accepting a bid for the first ever purchase for the town of Wood today. So
yes.
I appreciate your information, Paul, and I apologize for interrupting.
Mm-hmm. Can I jump in also, and just in response to what Jeff had said? Leaf blowers are never used or hardly ever used in the winter unless there's a storm issue, because once the leaves are picked up off the ground in the fall cleanup and the spring cleanup, the requirement of a leaf blower is a vastly lighter situation. And during the winter, there's almost no requirement for a leaf blower at all. So that is what leads to the fact that you need the gas blower for such a limited period.
Okay, yeah, I understand that. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to say again and reiterate what Paul said, that, you know, people have been seeking him out because, you know, as a consumer, you're also enjoying your own property and you don't want a leaf blower there while you're trying to enjoy your property with family, kids, or even by yourself. The noise is pretty horrific, and the dust that it, you know, creates, I think, is, you know, again, not healthy. So, you know, I think that I appreciate that people are seeking out, as we heard today, people are, you know, that called in are agreeing with this, but to know that people are actually seeking this as a type of landscape business that they want to hire is important.
So I just have a couple questions. I know, Paul, you mentioned that you've spoken to some local landscapers. Now, I know there are a lot of local families that have landscaping businesses. So what we're basically asking them to do is have their summer equipment, which would be, you know, electric, or have their winter equipment. And have you spoken, I mean, has the committee that is working on this, have you spoken to local landscapers, some that are smaller operations, to see, you know, is this manageable? Is this something that they could, you know, be ready for, or are they already ready for it because that's what the rules in the village are? I noticed Lauren sent around a couple of articles this morning, and one was from the Star. And I know that when the village did their legislation, they formed a committee that consulted with residents, landscapers, and others before the laws were drafted. So have we spoken to, you know, a range of landscapers that, you know, as to if this is even burdensome for them or if it's not? Because I'd be interested in knowing that.
And can I just add on to what Kathy said, because I noted that in the Star also. I think the range of landscapers, if we haven't or if we do, not just in East Hampton area, but also Montauk, because there's a lot of landscapers in Montauk that don't service East Hampton Village. So they might not have the crossover already too. Mm-hmm. But I'll let you answer the question.
Yeah, I feel like with the East Hampton Village having their mandate on, that it's very confusing as far as where the village starts and where it ends. So I feel like landscapers, because of that fact, are more prone to, you know, wanting to do the change. And two that I have spoken to in the recent weeks have already purchased some equipment. So it is doable. I mean, and we got to understand that if this becomes the norm, then, you know, both the client and the operator will have no choice. Just like gas, it's the only thing that's offered. So once the electric becomes it, then, you know, then those problems of like, oh, the cost goes to the homeowner. Well, it's still a convenience because they're not going to do it themselves. Or if they can, then they can choose to do it themselves. So I think it's all doable.
Yeah,
I think it sounds like the future is happening. It sounds like the future is happening. I mean, the fact
it is, and this industry, unfortunately, is very behind.
I was going to say
technology has been around for at least 5 years.
The fact that we have other municipalities that have kind of, you know, studied it and taken some of the hits and figured things out, I think is a benefit to us. And you know, it's not always the easiest to be the first on the block, but it really looks like this is a trend.
It's definitely a trend. I was going to say that you already see in the marketplace the number of manufacturers that are moving away from fossil fuel, especially two-cycle engines, and making products that are electric, whether it be electric chainsaws for lighter duty use or leaf blowers, lawn mowers. I mean, there are even robotic Roomba vacuum style lawn mowers you can program that automatically cut your lawn. I know there's one on 114. I drive by, I see the lawnmower out there cutting the grass all by itself. Electric powered, returns to its base and charges. It's, you know, the technology is there. And I have to say that over my time on the town board, the number of complaints I've gotten from residents specifically about leaf blowers has increased. And during the time of COVID, exponentially increased because things were quiet, much quieter pace, and then people were trying to enjoy some solace. And leaf blowers, if you're living in a residential neighborhood with half-acre lots or smaller, even in the village in some places, you might have 20 or 30 residences that you're within earshot of a leaf blower. And it seems like perpetual leaf blowing almost all day, every day. I live in Northwest Woods, which is fairly isolated. It was one of the quietest places in all of town. And there are some residences nearby, and there's been a real shift over time. There's been this, obsession with having a perfectly manicured, monolithic fescue lawn, to the point where the leaf blowers show up for 5 leaves on the lawn, and they spend a half an hour blowing the 5 leaves off the property. It's remarkable. Now, I can understand using that type of equipment for larger cleanups, in the spring and in the fall. That makes a lot of sense. But I do think that one of the most attractive aspects of this town has been, for many years, a place to get some peace and quiet. And we are rapidly losing that to many different fronts. And I think if we can work to improve, our climate, if we can improve the quality of our air, if we can reduce noise and still get the job done, that's a direction worth pursuing. And, I think that, I know this is the first real discussion that the town board's really had openly about this, this initiative. And I think we'll need to talk about it some more and inform the public as to what the options are and get input from both residents and, landscape business owners. I think that's an important discussion to have. And I'm glad that the Energy Sustainability Committee and Sylvia Overby, our liaison to the committee, and Councilwoman, have brought this forward for discussion. And I think it's long overdue, frankly. And, we weren't the first out of the starting block, but that doesn't mean we have to be the last either. I think the time has come.
If I may, so I'm concerned about working families and where they come at it from here. So, I appreciate if we're going to reach out to small businesses, small landscape companies, to make sure that we give them enough time to transition, right, their equipment. And also, I see that in the village of East Hampton, they did leaf blowers and lawn mowers and trimmers and edgers and all of it. And so they're allowing some use of that equipment on Sundays and federal holidays, whereas the village of Southampton only did leaf blowers, and they have a prohibition on Sundays and holidays. Our working folks, some of them work 6 days a week, and only, their only day off is Sunday. Their only day off to, do household chores and work around the house is Sunday. So I have a concern that there's a prohibition on Sundays to be able to, work at your home, and I don't know how we address that. I don't know if it's reaching out more. And obviously this is good because we've started a dialogue today, and hopefully people are tuned in. The papers will pick up on it, and we can bring more people into the conversation. So I just want to put that out there. It's just hardworking families that only have a day to work on their homes.
Yeah, I can appreciate
Sunday being that day.
I can appreciate that, Kathy. I find I still cut my own lawn. I still do my own yard work. And
Same here.
I have very little time to do it. And that's why I referred to earlier in the meeting as my lawn being a meadow restoration. My terraces, I let them just grow up in native blue stem grasses. And frankly, it looks beautiful, like amber waves of grain. I do have a cut portion of my lawn. And I've also let brown-eyed Susans take over portion of my lawn as well. So, I think it's not just about leaf blowers and the noise. It's about really thinking in terms of ways of getting away from the type of landscaping that requires herbicides and pesticides and loud equipment all the time to be able to reach some unattainable standard of, I guess, perfection, a combed, manicured lawn. I mean, that's okay to some degree, but people seem so obsessed with that, and there's been a whole history of moving towards that. It's really contrary to what I think our town was, more bucolic. The fact that you have some clover growing in your lawn means that native pollinators and bees have a source of food to make honey and pollinate other plants. It's part of our biodiversity. If your lawn is so clean and filled with chemicals that you don't see any insects in it, that means you're poisoning your groundwater as well and putting your own health at risk. And it means that that's having a negative impact on our natural environment and that's damaging. So, I think just having a better understanding, there are some people in this town who've worked very hard to present a different approach to landscaping that's more environmentally sound and still quite beautiful. So again, I think it's a discussion to have publicly, to listen to the community. I'm not saying everybody has to have a more natural looking lawn either, but the noise does trespass. And I think people, again, are becoming more and more concerned about the degradation and the inability to even sit outside in the late afternoon or evening to have a quiet conversation and enjoy their surroundings. So it is a discussion, I think, that's overdue.
So I think what I'd like to do is to continue the discussion. I want to address what Kathy was saying about a time to transition. The energy sustainability also worked with, banning plastic bags. And we gave, I think, time to transition because we were aware that, small businesses may already have had a stack of plastic bags. So I think that we've been very sensitive to making sure that transition times are reasonable in past legislation. So I certainly think we would do it in this legislation. And prohibition on Sundays or federal holidays could be for the small businesses and landscapers, not for residents themselves. So there are some nuances that we can consider as we move forward with talking about legislation and, talking just among ourselves, but also with the small business owners and residents alike. So anyway, I saw Lena, you had your hand up as well.
I did. I'm so touched by Kathy's compassion on some level. I find it very consistent with the way she feels as a town board member altogether. And I'm just thinking that there are 2 points that I really want to make. One is really, I know that noise is a big deal for all of us, but I think health in terms of the actual landscaper is, perhaps both the noise and actually the pollution, the air pollution that is generated from the gas. This, if you look at the statistics, there's terrible hearing loss problems that relate to operating this equipment. And there's also result of the air pollution. So the landscaper, the small business person that you refer to there's a big cost. There's a big consequence to his continuing with gas blowers on that side. On the other side, the transition to electric is going to economically, although the initial capitalization of the equipment is the burdensome piece that you're referring to, but the long-term effect is going to be nothing but a pleasure because the maintenance costs on electric is just wildly less. So the expenses on an ongoing basis are going to diminish.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in just quickly, I think we all know, like, working family, just even yesterday, kids get home, we're having dinner at 6 o'clock. I don't get out to cut my lawn until 6:30, 7 o'clock quickly. Now, I don't run a gas leaf blower unless it's absolutely needed. But I think the compassion is correct. It's something that I'd be in favor of continue looking into. But yeah, we might have to tinker it a little bit here and there to work with the majority of the residents. And as I said, Montauk has to be included in this discussion because, again, a lot of the landscapers are based out of there, might not be working East Hampton Village and have not capitalized, as you're saying, Lena, to that transition. I'm not saying that they won't, But I'm just saying that they should just be a part of that discussion, a specific outreach. And I know, Sylvia, you could easily do that as liaison to, Montauk CAC also, too.
Hey, David, if you have any businesses in Montauk that you want me to contact, I'll be happy to do that.
Yeah, sure. I'll put together a list. Yeah.
All right, that would be great.
And then can I just ask regarding the registration? Do we know how many landscapers we have in the town?
That's a Carol question.
Well, I mean, have you inquired from Carol, like polled to see?
I don't know.
Everybody and their brother, I think.
Yeah. I don't think that we distinguish in the program what they're licensed for.
So the licenses really are only required for landscapers that are building retaining walls or other type structures and that sort. They're not required for those who are performing lawn maintenance, for instance. So I don't think we have a solid handle on the number of people who do that. And there are, as you said, Kathy, a lot of working folks who may even have a full-time job working, doing construction or working in a deli or whatever. And as soon as they get off work, they're out with their landscaping equipment, maintaining lawns and whatnot on the side. That's a side job to bring in extra additional income. And, I noticed that you kind of see the hours of like 4 to 7 p.m. really being, the peak times for the leaf blowers and landscaping crews. And I think it's because a lot of those businesses actually are part-time. And I see Paul raising his hand, and he's the landscape professional. And what do you think of that, Paul? Is that one of the issues here?
I'm in agreement with that. I just wanted to bring up something before I forget on what Lena brought up, and then everybody else kind of just to echo that. At our last meeting, I brought up, and I think COVID, although it has been very hard, there is some good to this because it allows us to go back and see that our quote unquote normal was not okay. And this may be for landscaping with what you brought up.
Very well said, Paul. You're right.
Mr. Supervisor, you brought up that ideally I would like no lawns and just take care of meadows, but that also takes education. And maybe this time allows us to go back and say, okay, how can we be better in the landscaping, in the way we do other stuff, the dump, anything. So I think this is a great opportunity to do that. And I just wanted to finish with saying the health for the operator is very important, but at the same time, we are doing a big damage to not only our neighbors, and that includes wildlife. So I think that's very important too. So the environment is very much included in this. It's not just our convenience with the noise and everything else, which is very important, of course. But I think, we could be very mindful now.
This has, I think, been a really good discussion talking about the major points. And, I look forward to us continuing this discussion and broadening the scope of our outreach to the public and getting their input on this topic. Are there any other questions or comments that board members would like to make at this time?
So I would like to say I'd like to move forward with trying to start at least crafting some legislation. And at the same time, we'll do some outreach to landscapers and small businesses. And David, if you've got some names, I'd be happy to be able to call. Paul, I know your connections too would be helpful. So I would like to move forward with John, if you can work with me on, or any of the town attorneys, if as we start to move forward with this, because I think now we need something concrete that we can start to look at and decide, what's in, what's out, what's good, what's bad for the town of East Hampton. So I think we're at that point now. And of course, that means we'll have other discussions as we go through this.
Terrific.
Great, thank you.
Lena, Paul,
Lauren.
And Lauren and Sylvia.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think
thank you, Lena, very much.
Constructive kickoff of this topic, and we look forward to more.
Yeah, so far we've had all positive feedback, so that's good to know too. So we'll keep moving forward. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Michael, do we have any callers?
No, we do not have any callers at this time.
Okay, very well. Then we can move on to our last topic of discussion, and I really just wanted to remind everyone that we are in hurricane season now. And I know many have been focused on the pandemic and all the other surrounding issues, but this has been a particularly active hurricane kickoff of the hurricane season. The outlook is for an active season, and it's proceeding at record pace. We've already had at least 5 named storms in July. It's only the second time on record. 5 storms made landfall in the United States as of early August, and also it's the earliest I named storm in history, Isaias, which we had arrived 2 weeks ago on August 4th. And I think it's worth reminding folks that it's important to be prepared ahead of time, especially, I think with the pandemic still going on. You can go to the East Hampton Town's website at ehamptonny.gov or Suffolk County website, suffolkcountyny.gov, and look for hurricane preparedness. We have a number of post-storm warming or cooling centers. There are generator-powered ones, Amagansett, American Legion, East Hampton Healthcare Center, the Ross School, East Hampton Senior Center, and in Montauk, the Montauk Community Church. Non-generated power locations would be Amagansett Library, First Presbyterian Church, many of the churches, places of worship throughout the town. Also, Wayne Scott, we have the East Hampton Airport on Daniels Hole Road, LTV as well. So
actually, Peter, how does that work during COVID? I mean, is there
the Red
capacity
Cross
issue?
Yeah, so the Red Cross has put in place, new standards and protocols to deal with distancing, the wearing of PPE. They have PPE supplies on hand. We have stockpiles within the town as well that can be brought to bear in that kind of an emergency. It does mean that in some cases, the potential capacity of an interior space could be reduced somewhat. And there are additional cleaning protocols that are put into place. So we do have a brochure on emergency preparedness for hurricanes, and that's available on the website. I believe they also have some copies out and about in the public spaces, the library and whatnot. So there are informational resources, preparedness tips, shelters, pet needs, and special health needs. Special health needs, you can contact the Human Services Department by calling 631-329-6939. And we do have a list of folks who may be on oxygen or need some other kind of special equipment to operate. And we have protocols in place to help those folks if the power goes out for an extended period of time. So informational resources include the town of East Hampton and our local police department as well, 537-7575. WLNG for over 60 years has been a community source of information. We have our amazing LTV channels 20 and 22, local access television, which provides important information and updates, as they have done throughout the pandemic, by the way. Both of those are terrific community resources. And we have the East Hampton Emergency Coordinator, and that's disaster preparedness at ehampton.gov. All of this information is available on the town website. Again, this brochure, but I thought we just give a brief run through. Everybody should have a preparedness plan in place, develop a storm plan for your family and pets. Pets are often a concern as well, and I'll get to that in a minute, but monitor local media and weather reports ahead of the storm. I know right now there are 2 invests in the Southern Atlantic moving towards the Caribbean. Invest L97 and 98. 98 seems to be one that could potentially develop into a hurricane and could be off our southern coast as early as Sunday. Again, we need to pay attention, and it's better to be out ahead of this storm coming by being prepared. You need to really have a supply of any medications that you would need, 10 to 14 days supply. Be prepared to have power, backup power or batteries stockpiled, food and water, again, 10 to 14 days. Those of you who have been through a hurricane here, and even just this what I would call rather mild tropical storm Isaias, mild here, we were fortunate, but there were 50 customers that were without power, and after a week, 36 of those were still out. So if we get a major hurricane and the utility, has outages all over, it could be literally weeks, 2-3 weeks before power could be restored to our area. So again, having those preparations made. You should always fill your vehicles with gasoline ahead of time and have any propane tanks filled. Again, the further in advance that you can do this, the less likelihood of there being shortages or having to wait in long lines. Follow the emergency evacuations, mandatory evacuations. Have a plan for if you live in a low outlying area that may be evacuated due to high water and storm surge, that you have made arrangements to be staying somewhere else. There is a limited amount of space in the shelters, and that space is probably even further limited by the COVID protocols. It's good to have some cash on hand and any necessary papers. Shelters we have, you should definitely check ahead of time by visiting the town's website prior to the expected storm as to which shelters will be opened. You can call, again, PD at 537-7575 or visit the town website to ascertain which sites will be open. The East Hampton High School is a designated shelter, Montauk Playhouse, Montauk School, and Pearson High School. And again, those with special health needs should sign up in advance with Human Services. And then pets, you should have a supply of food for your pet, 10 to 14 days, any pet medications and whatnot. There is free boarding at ARF, Animal Rescue Fund, for your dog if you have to go to a shelter that doesn't allow pets. I believe the Montauk Playhouse does also allow pets, but you need to have a crate for your pet. Also, they need to be collared. You have to have a vaccine record if you're going to be boarding your pets with ARF. And again, these are things that you need to be thinking about how you're going to deal with that situation if and when the necessity of it arises. Again, we certainly hope we don't get a major hurricane, but that could occur in any given year. And then again, pay attention to East Hampton Town's website, Facebook, Instagram pages, listen to LNG and LTV. And that's pretty much it.
The only thing I wanted to mention, Peter, when you talked about, the special health needs list, that the fire departments are in contact with Human Services. They share their list with Human Services. So there's a coordinated effort going on there.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Kathy. So at this point, do we have any callers on the line, Michael?
No, we do not.
Okay, I guess we can move forward with liaison reports.
Okay, so speaking of Human Services, they continue to make their weekly wellness calls, deliver their prepared meals, nutritious meals to our seniors. Right now, they're delivering about 1,370 meals to 276 seniors. And the latest update through August 14th is that we've delivered 28,762 meals, which is just outstanding. The adult daycare program, I mentioned last week that they were having a trial Zoom meeting to see if they could start resuming some of their programming. And I guess it was a success. So what they're going to do is they're going to start with a weekly call and then build and add days as time goes on. So they'll be meeting on Thursdays. They'll do their current events with the seniors. They'll get into their morning stretch, which they normally do every day. and they've actually figured out a way to do art projects virtually. They'll be dropping off the materials for different art projects, our senior transportation folks, and they'll be able to coordinate that, which is tremendous. And again, hats off to them for figuring out workarounds, in this time. And then for those seniors that need to have groceries or prescriptions and other essentials picked up and delivered to their home, they just need to use a merchant that has, prepaid offering, and then our senior transportation can do that. So anyone that's in need of assistance, wants to be on the list, and during times of emergency preparedness, or for what other needs they may have, they should reach out to Human Services at 631-329-6939. Tonight we have a spring CAC meeting. We're meeting on Zoom at 7 o'clock. I'm looking forward to that, since we had to cancel our July meeting because there just wasn't enough folks that would be available to participate. We had a meeting last Friday. Joanne Powell and myself and Kim Shaw with the consultants that are working on the Springs Corridor study. So we're at a crossroads here. Ray Tobias, our traffic engineer, has finally gotten the data from Suffolk County for the counts that they took in the summer of 2019 for County Road 41, Springs Fireplace Road, and County Road 40, 3 Mile Harbor. And we now need to figure out how we move forward with projecting future counts. And it's something that he really needs input from the board to make sure that we're all on the same page as far as how we proceed. So they're going to be coming to our September 8th work session. We will have Peter Flinker, Ray Tobias, and Lisa LaCorey giving us an update on where things stand on that project. And then speaking of Springs Fireplace Road, for those of us that traverse that road every day, we know that there's there's a reconstruction project going on there, a $7.6 million county project. They're making great progress. Right now, they've got 15 drainage structures left to put in, and the curb, sidewalk, and aprons are about a third of the way complete. And as everyone knows that travels that corridor, they're working with an alternating one lane, because our shoulders are in such bad shape that they're not able to, make it 2 lanes. So it's down to 1 lane. So as we see, folks are, we've found workarounds, those of us in Springs, and we're taking Accabonac and 3 Mile Harbor. Last week I spoke about mental health services that were available in the town of East Hampton. And, as everybody knows, we provide grant funding to Family Service League, $50,000 for their program here on Accabonac Road. And then we also have a grant for $27,500 for the Southwark Behavioral Health Initiative, which is a program that's funded by the town of Southampton, East Hampton, local school districts in New York State. So I've invited Karen Borstein, the president and CEO of Family Service League, to make a presentation on all the services that they have available to community members. So she will be here on Tuesday, September 15th, to go over their program. Just wanted to put a plug in for the census. Again, if you haven't filled out the census, go to my2020census.gov. We've reached out to the market managers for the 3 farmers markets in town to see if we could have the census pop up, tents there to help people fill out the census. And we're waiting to hear back if they're willing to accommodate us there. I know that yesterday a press release went out from the governor regarding gyms and fitness centers, and quite frankly, I had trouble deciphering it. But I saw this morning that there's 17 pages worth of guidance on the New York State website. So I haven't had a chance yet to download that, but I know obviously a lot of businesses in town are interested in how they move forward, as well as the YMCA. So I'm sure we'll be digging into that. And then I just wanted to touch base about the posting of the transcripts of public hearings. I know we brought it up last week. We've had 6 transcripts posted. We've closed 5 of the public hearings, but there's still, I believe, 8 public hearings that are outstanding that we're still waiting on transcripts for. So hopefully those will be here, shortly. That's what I have for today.
Thank you, Kathy. David?
Yeah, yes, thank you. Let me just, if I could just follow up quickly on the gym and fitness centers with Kathy, being a member of the fitness industry for so many years, and too, fitness industries are going to have to come together and make sure they can provide a product that is safe and wise. Based on some of what the governor's guidance was, it's going to come down to either local ordinances or local health inspectors to come visit some of these sites. So I don't know if Peter and Sylvia, you're meeting with the Business Recovery Committee tomorrow, might be brought up how, who's going to do these inspections. Is it going to be the county or the township? Because I think they have about a 10-day window to open up right now, or to provide an environment and then go through all the checklists to open up to these facilities, which a couple of them have unfortunately closed since the beginning of COVID, including some of my longest and best friends. So Kathy, thank you for doing that. And I thank you in advance for bringing it up to the Business Advisory Committee. Next. Okay, the Nature Preserve Committee, which is a great little committee, actually. They met last week. We continued discussions. We were fortunate to have the East Hampton Village planner, Billy Hajek, in on our Zoom meeting, and we were discussing a management plan for 81 Ocean Ave, the Ayer property up by Main Beach, and this is a property bought by CPF in the village. We've recently done an IMA with the village, but we wanted to make sure that there was a management plan on the property that will be coordinated with the village and also run in conjunction with the upcoming bid for a habitat wetland restoration on the project. So we went over that and had a nice discussion about that and with Billy and the other members of the committee. That would come forward, and we should have that completed very quickly by next month. It's a small property. I do have, we did go over Andy Gates, one of our land stewards, and the department gave a report about maintenance trail reports. They did woodcutters well in Chatsville Hole. They did a preserve cleanup recently. They also re-woodchipped Springs water access trails. There's a couple I know that were put in on Squaw Road that have been successful and that the neighbors have really enjoyed. It allows for an area for it to get down to the water access without, going through tall grass and tick-infested areas. They did blaze the Neck Path Trail System, which a blaze, if you're not aware of it, it's a marking on a tree that denotes the trail design so that people could stay on the trail and not go off of it. They also want to let us know that the Boys Harbor Pavilion's demolition has been completed also then too. And they also completed, I know the board actually discussed this a while back, but the Heather Hills reroute of the coastal trail, there was an area of that trail that's closer to Rod's Valley that had been starting to get too close to erosion to it. It was rerouted about 5 to 10 feet landward, and that had been completed also. They're clearing tree falls, Springs maintenance, trails maintenance in Springs Montauk. I do have to say, Andy Drake mowed 29 miles of trails of Wainscott and East Hampton trails. And I know that there's a lot of supporters of that, from mountain bikers to trail users, for that help. So thank you, Andy. They did close 2 unauthorized trails. They installed a kiosk at the Stark property. They did a couple of dumping cleanups, particularly in Wainscott. They updated their hunting guide, which will be available to the town clerk and online shortly. And they're still continuing the private property southern pine beetle inspections. The Nature Preserve Committee also continued on discussion with the 555 management plan that is moving forward, getting close to completion for a recommendation and a presentation in the next couple months then too, mostly looking at a passive use park area. We discussed our discussion on deer exclosures as something that started initially in the Wildlife Management Committee and has been now discussed in the Nature Preserve Committee. It's something that I wanted to start with a discussion to put a scientific approach to deer browse. and the effects on deer browse on our local habitats. And I look forward to potentially having a discussion at the town board level in a work session, maybe very early fall then too, because it will take some potential funding for that. The discussion also continued into the tar works. I know there was a discussion a long time ago about mowing the tar works. That sort of got off track, but we want to try to bring that back on track and also have a work session discussion on that also. Again, the tar tract is off of the coastal trail, and it's an area of Hither Hills that's co-managed by the state, the county, and the township. Also, just recently, I just received actually the report from the Burial Ground Preservation Group for the completion of the Hedges Parsons Cemetery. I'll pass it on to board members, and maybe I could bring that to the board for a discussion about their restoration efforts there and what they found out, some of the historical information from that. Some of it is quite beautiful, but some of it is also tragic, and you wouldn't have known until the headstones were cleaned, and I look forward to that discussion there. Let me go on to the buildings and grounds. We had I want to thank Dave Collins from the village. They gave us a report of a tree that's in front of the Springs Library that there's a discussion about public safety. The tree's hollowed out. It's a silver maple. I'll pass it along to the board about their recommendations for potential removal, but I just want to alert the community to that. I know, Kathy, maybe you can mention it to the Springs CAC tonight on there about the scenarios, issues with the tree, and timing.
Right. And there was also talk, David, they wanted the tree, now that it's been determined that it needs to come down, and then we could probably proceed with work on the roof, correct, of the library?
That's correct. A lot of the rot and the decay is probably coming from a canopy that is unstable right now and not allowing enough air and light to come onto that roof. And that is also in a capital project. And that was discussed when I met with Tony Littman at the time then too. So that's correct. Let's see here. In aquaculture, in aquaculture, I want to remind everyone watching that there is a 10-year review of the Scout meeting. That will be this 3 p.m. this Thursday. Please go to the Suffolk County website. You'll have to sign up and pre-register for that. Again, it's Thursday, 8/20. But I did want to go over two things. There's a nice write-up about Cornell Cooperative Extension's Seed on Spat program that they are doing in conjunction with Gurney's Inn in Montauk in Star Island about a natural oyster reef there, and they got a DEC approval for putting 1 million oysters on spat in there for the next 10 years to try to increase biodiversity and then also water quality in that area. And I'm going to reach out to Kim Barber. She's a personal friend myself, and I know her in-laws well. To have a greater discussion on that and how that program potentially can be used in other areas, not just of East Hampton, but maybe Southampton and the East End. I do want to let people know that I had a discussion with John Dunn recently. He did say that the scallop crop that they have been growing this year is looking quite great. But unfortunately, right now, I've gotten a couple of reports from some fishermen and from John and Barley also about the catching of cow-nose rays and the spotting of cow-nose rays inside some of our harbors right now, which we didn't have last year. They were mostly outside in the bays and were probably potentially part of the Peconic Estuary program announced this, part of a die-off that we didn't see in last year of scallop growth. But now we're seeing inside two locations, inside 3 Mile Harbor and also Napeague Harbor, where they weren't last year, and we actually had some good scallop growing.
It's important to mention, David, that this is not a species that normally exists in our local waters. It's more of a southern species, and as our water temperatures continue to rise, we're seeing an invasion of species here, whether it's southern pine beetles or cow-nose rays, which have the potential for devastating impacts on our ecosystems that didn't evolve with them in the ecosystem, and they're vulnerable.
That is exactly correct. I was just getting to that. Is that I did talk to one of the baymen the pound traps and also shellfishes on secondarily. That it's Mother Nature right now. You're seeing the ecosystem change, and you have to adapt for it. So I'll be having a discussion with John Barley Dunn to see.
By the way, they are edible, so you can adapt that way as well.
Very good. They're big. They're very big, you know. But also if we're instituting any of the recommendations from the Conic Estuary Scout Die-Off team that came out, or I believe it was in late February, and then COVID hit. So I want to make sure that's happening and make sure that we can, you know, still fulfill that crop going forward. Just want to let everyone know about that. Let me just get to my next one, if you don't mind. The Beach Advisory Group had discussions via email. Again, this past weekend wasn't the greatest day on Sunday. I personally think it was the first Sunday in 2 years that I haven't been able to take my family to the beach, to my little slice of heaven, because of the rain. Don't get me wrong, my house is very clean right now, and I did watch some Netflix. But the Beach Advisory Group discussed needs. This is going to be the last work session in August. It's August 18th right now. We've gotten this far. Again, there's going to be a lot of long-term considerations that I think the town we're going to have to look at right now, and more specifically about patrolling our beaches at night. I think we have to prepare for that, and during COVID next year, how does it affect our staffing levels, cleaning up, parking, long-term considerations to parking on there right now in some of our areas, specifically in downtown Montauk. So these are all discussions that the Beach Advisory Group want to, make sure everyone note that we should tackle in the upcoming months as we just exit summer right now shortly, or transfer into fall. They will go into budgeting, and then also just pretty much as I think what Paul said also earlier is long-term changes that we might have to look at then too. I do want to salute John Ryan Jr., the Hampton Lifeguard Association, and I also want to thank and salute the rest of the town board members for the support of the junior lifeguarding program. They completed their lifeguarding program this past week with flying colors. It worked out quite well. I've received a lot of great little text messages of thank you, of support. There were a lot of changes to that program to try to disperse the program over different areas and different days, which worked well. The kids had a great time, social distancing. They learned to be lifeguards for life, waterproof the town, and also learned about just beach safety in general. So I want to salute them, who I just mentioned, and also just the town lifeguards then too, who were thrown into this in COVID and really have adapted very well. And I know some of them are leaving right now, but I want to just make sure that, they get a shout out from the town board also, because they were an integral cog into our beach action plan, which has gone off successfully this year. Also, I want to mention that there was a great number of recertifications from our town lifeguards, and also new certifications from our town lifeguards recently also, in which John Ryan Jr. and Jeff Thompson, who is our assistant chief lifeguard, were able to design a recert program that worked within the Suffolk County Health Department's parameters, and they're able to still keep the pipeline of trainees to lifeguards for our beach safety moving forward, hopefully not just for years, decades, and generations to move forward on there. So I want to thank the lifeguards for doing so. And again, I'll have another report of the Beach Advisory Group, maybe just through emails to the town board, since we won't have a meeting for until September now. Let me see here. I know I want to discuss with everyone, and I sent to everyone yesterday about the Amagansett parking lot, and we discussed this last week about potential changes to time restrictions on there. Now, what I sent to the board primarily was just changes in the code that maybe we can potentially schedule a public hearing for, and then after we do that, we can always determine what percentages we would want to use for each time slot. I know the town board, town board looked at recommendations from ACAC. We heard recommendations also from the library, from the business community, from other people's personal experiences there, how we might want to move forward. But what I was assisted with by our town attorney, John Jolnicki, and also our assistant town attorney, Jameson McWilliams, was just some language that we might want to look at going to public hearing because to enforce the parking, we would have to change the code in a couple of locations. Again, we would have to potentially change for 2-hour parking if we were to put in a time frame. That's one of the recommendations I had out there or listed. Secondly was also if we went to 72-hour parking for that lot, that's not in our town code, so we would have to go to public hearing for that. I put in there the coloring of the lines at red. Again, I'm open to anything. Again, they would have to make sure they're able to see on black. We already have green for 30, white for 2-hour, yellow for 24-hour, and we also have blue for handicap accessibility. So I was just trying to come up with a color. I did check with Chief Sarlo on that, and he had no concerns on it as a town board decision. There's nothing that would be the way for emergency management if we did go with red, but I'm open to other colors that would be able to be used and seen after time, so they didn't wear off. Third, we put in for trailer parking prohibit, which is in our town code 240-27.7. A caveat for number 1, for no trailer overnight parking at the Amagansett Municipal Parking Lot. I know that was a concern. Kathy might have a concern about during the daytime. Yes, a landscaper might go and service one of the areas in the back there. They might just need to go to the men's room or the ladies' room, and they might just be going in there to get lunch or do delivery. So the caveat was for overnight parking. So that was number 3. And then the fourth one on there was about taxi cabs. And we did have that put up in 2017, parking of taxi cabs and TNC vehicles prohibited certain hours. This is chapter 240-18-C. What we came up with the thought to put in there was no taxi cab or TNC vehicle shall be parked in the public Amagansett municipal parking lot except when actively dropping off or picking up a fare. So what it doesn't allow them to just wait there for a call or a fare or overnight park there. I've witnessed many times being in the parking lot there at 7:30, 8 in the morning, individuals sleeping in their cars that have Uber or rideshare decals on it. So I know that's happening on there. So those are some of the discussion points. Again, timing comes up right now of our timing to do this. But I didn't know if anyone had any questions of me as I put this forward, or you could just respond to it via email. It'd be good to try to get this, scheduled for a public hearing as early as we can in September, which would correspond then with the striping, because we would need I wouldn't want to have to put extra money into different changes in the coloring and the striping. But I'll put that to the board for any discussion or questions that they might have on myself.
So David, let's get that scheduled for discussion on September 1st. I think that's the first Tuesday.
Okay.
For session.
That's fine for me. What I'll do is I'll then put this forward, and I'll come up with some different charts based on our discussion. I just wanted you to see what my thoughts were and the attorney's thoughts were for the changes to the code, and then we can also go and look in the locations. Thank you for that. And let me see. Okay, we went over Jim's schools. Okay, so as you all well aware, I have four beautiful daughters. They're going to be in 3 different schools. I first of all, I'm going to make sure and implore parents to be part of this right now. This is exactly what the governor has mentioned the last couple of weeks when he says, yes, we're allowed to open schools, but every school has to come up with a plan. And then those school districts have to outreach to the parents. So I have a child now going to be in high school. I have right? Well, and I also have two children going to be in spring school. So I've been watching the school boards, and the school boards are doing an absolutely wonderful job. And just because I'm saying that I've been watching those 2 school boards doesn't mean that the others, that Wayne Scott, Amagansett, and Montauk aren't doing the same. I just have a vested interest in those because of my family. But I implore all the parents to be part of this process right now. I know in Springs they're having outreaches in English and Spanish through Zoom meetings, calls. Please be in contact with your administrators right now to find out how this is going to affect your family. How is this going to affect your job? How is this going to affect your family dynamic at home right now? They're doing a tremendous effort of outreach. And I think as a parent, we have to be very supportive of these, but also part of that process. Just as We have people part of the municipal process, part of government here. Let's be part of this process in COVID. No plan is going to work perfectly for everyone. But again, for you to be best educated, do that outreach. If you get a text message or email from the school district, open it up, because it's not the normal school year right now. For example, my sister is the Dean of Accreditation and Curriculum Studies down at UNC Chapel Hill. I've been talking with her for months about her school. We just saw yesterday that they went back to school, and less than 7 days later, maybe five days later, they actually have now closed and gone all remote learning. And honestly, it's going to be a big change for her too. And she's a person that's trying to accredit that school. So as I'm just trying to outreach there is, let's be a part of it, parents. Okay, have a little patience. Let's just be part of what we're trying to do for the betterment of our children. And two, what's happening to our kids right now, it's going to have long-term effects, not just socially, but also education-wise. And we'll get through this, but let's do it as one. Lastly,
Yeah, I thought you'd bring up the Big Ten conference, David.
yeah, well,
sore subject.
That they might be walking that back.
Don't get me wrong. I'm a sports fan, but I'm not gonna tread. I'm gonna tread lightly there. I feel for one of my best friends who's the head athletic coach there at Penn State, and I feel for the athletes. They put a lot of effort into it, and we have athletes at our high school too. They're doing it. So there's just a lot of changes. I guess what I'm just trying to say to everyone listening, if people are there listening, is be part of it right now. Don't take anything for granted. Things are changed. Maybe 2021, God, I hope it's better. God bless if we can do that.
Certainly are challenging times that are requiring all of us to rethink everything.
That is exactly correct.
On a daily basis, and that continues. So
that is correct.
So.
Lastly, if you don't mind sort of editorializing here, I want to put a plug of support to 3 local business owners in our community right now, and 3 friends of mine that grew up in this community, that started a business right now, that are being mercifully, in a way, unfortunately, crucified through the negative powers of social media about their decision to speak up and put their the constitutional rights for free speech, and to support and be empathetic towards the mistreatment of others. I want to talk about the owners of the Montauk Brewing Company. I'm not on social media, as you all know, and I do that for a reason. First of all, I don't have enough time, and second of all, I don't think I have enough patience for it either. But Vaughn, Eric, and Joe, they're local business owners that are unfortunately have found such a negative tone and certain individuals to their business. I completely believe in free speech. I completely believe in everyone's opinions. I do not personally like when you lose decorum or when you vilify someone without having a back and forth reasonable discussion. And without going into the points on this, I just want to make sure that our local businesses are supported, and I will continue to support them. These are just difficult times for everyone. These are local community members, local grown children of Ebonic right now that are at a crossroads, unfortunately. They're a success story for us. I want to let them know, and anyone watching, that I support them and what they did. I support the actions, even of their naysayers. I just don't support the way it's being done. Have a discussion. The vile vitriol.
Yeah, David, I think.
Sorry. Yeah. That's brewing in our society right now has to stop. There's a place for everyone to have decency and a good conversation, and that's what I'm trying to say. And I support you guys out there. I thank you for your time, and that's my
David. I appreciate you bringing that up, and I think really it emphasizes the point that in our democracy we have the ability to freely express ourselves, and that we need to be more tolerant of those who differ in their opinions from us, regardless of what it is. That we need to treat each other with mutual respect and dignity, and be tolerant. That's so important. That is one of the founding premises of of our democracies, the ability to be different. You don't have to think the same way as everyone else. You don't have to march lockstep with everyone else. And you're supposed to be afforded an opportunity to enjoy the same freedoms and expressions, no matter where you are in this country. And I think we're losing sight of that. It's my way or the highway. And that really has to end. We need to come together and just accept that everybody's not going to agree and move on. And frankly, with Montauk Brewing, it's about the beer. They happen to brew really good beer. Let's not lose sight of that. And I support them, and I'll continue to support them, not just because of the beer, but because they're local. They're a local business, homegrown success story. And I think it's unfortunate that things have gotten so polarized and so political that we can't even agree over a beer. So anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
I thank you, and that's my liaison report for the month.
Thank you, David. Sylvia?
I'm going to start by saying I'm not a beer drinker, but I'm becoming one. So,
for you, Sylvia, I recommend the watermelon.
COVID related.
My kids love it, so it's in my refrigerator. So I'm gonna start popping open cans myself, so I can start buying more of it. Anyway, thank you, David and Peter, for what you said about the boys. I've known them for a very long time, and they're not only brew good beer, but they're just good men. And so I think that's important, and that's a tribute to Bonnick because they were raised here. The liaison report, we did the CCA, Community Choice Aggregation webinar, went off. 62 people had signed up and over 40 did attend the webinar. So appreciate all those who attended. It was really well done. Thanks to Lauren Steinberg. The 3 people on the panel were terrific. I got a good sense from just what the state is doing, what LIPA themselves is doing, who are very much in favor of this, and also what has happened with Westchester, their sustainability, and they were all just really good. One of the things that all 3 of the speakers said was that they praised East Hampton for their leadership and hope that other communities would follow what we're doing with 100% renewable. So you'll get a lot of information. It was recorded, and LTV is going to have the recording so that that it can be shown on LTV. So if anyone's interested.
Sylvia, I also think we should get the link to that on the town website as well. So
okay.
If you need help doing that, let us know.
Okay. Thanks. I'll put that down. The next thing that the Sustainability Committee would like to bring forward is a car purchasing policy for the town as we start to look at cars, especially in this next budget year. I've heard over and over that some cars do need to be replaced with certain departments, that we start looking at electric vehicles instead of using fossil fuel vehicles, since we've now put in electric stations. We now have 4. Do we have at Town Hall?
I think we have 6 here at Town Hall.
Okay. So we have the ability to have a larger fleet, and we'd like to start looking at actually having a policy that the town would have. I know that we verbally have tried to put in and buy more electric vehicles, but at this point we should probably have a policy that we can work from as we go on and start replacing our cars. The Anti-Bias Task Force also met by Zoom meeting. One of the things on their agenda was the census, and so they have. We have the census flyer that was actually produced by Ola, so it's in Spanish and English. They have it and are sending it out to everybody that they know, their email lists, etc. Anyone that is in their church groups, because we have quite a few people that are associated with either the Calvary Baptist Church, the Methodist Church here in town, and the Episcopal Church. So we're hoping that, they get that information to all of their groups as well. The some of the projects that they'd like to do for 2021 is to redo our flyer that we have. It's about 6 years old. Some of the information needs to be updated, so we're hoping to get started on working on that. We have the diversity program that's going on, and I have to thank Chief Mike Tracy for all the work that he's put into that. It's being done at LTV. The next show, they're hoping to get the next show on August the 19th, and they still haven't confirmed that yet. So, and the two people that have not confirmed, but they are talking to are Talia Hayes and Anna Hoffman, who were the young women who put together the protest here that was at the windmill, with some really, great speakers and great attendance, socially distant and lots of masks were there. So it was well done. And so we'd like to have them in our diversity program. So the bumper sticker contest, we finally got that completed as far as everybody, all the ballots added up. We have 3 group winners and then 1 overall winner. Actually, it's 3 group winners, and one of those 3 is the overall winner. So we had age groups 6 to 9, 10 to 14, and 14 to 18, and they will be getting gift certificates to a store, and we're trying to contact their parents' schools where a lot of these were done in their art programs, and the kids themselves, and we're going to have to come up with a way to announce and decide how to give them their awards, either bring them on a Zoom meeting or, well, anyway, we have to figure that out. So, and I think the winner is, it's perfect. I'll just say that, it's perfect. I also want to bring, I think we talked about this before, the Village of East Hampton would like to work on a mutual agreement with the town to run their affordable housing program that's over commercial buildings, just like they're looking at legislation to have that program instituted, but they would like the town of East Hampton to run it and use Tom Rule's department in order to run that. They would do all the permitting and the building permits and code enforcement, but they would just need somebody else. And they've asked Tom, since he's been doing it for so many years, to look into it. So, working with Beth Baldwin, I'd like John, if you can, or somebody in your department. I think John already talked with Beth, but I think the town, and I'm very much in favor of working with the village so that they also can have the same type of legislation of affordable apartments above commercial buildings. So I just want to move that forward. And if there are any comments, please let me know, and I'll be in touch with Becky Hansen.
No, I guess the only comment I had, Sylvia, wasn't about that project. I don't know if yourself or maybe Jeff. It was about the AHO at the Simonetti property that was there. I know I mentioned about possibly doing a memorializing resolution to that, to assist in the application moving forward on there. I didn't know if we wanted to discuss that at any time shortly.
It's with the housing development, it's with, Katie Casey. So I don't know if that's something that Jeff wants to bring up.
The Housing Authority, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Okay, sorry about that. Sorry to jump in.
All right, so this would just be a mutual agreement that we would sign with the village. If you're in favor of that, I'd like to try to move that forward. Okay, great, thank you. And that's all I have for today.
Great, thank you, Sylvia. Jeff?
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Wainscott Green. I've been tracking down the costs to do the basic work that would enable us to open the green. And actually, I just got an email this morning from Steve Lynch that had sort of the last component of it. We had a partial estimate that was in the range of $47,000. This is for the pathway and the handicap parking space and the other parking spaces. Steve has now given me the last component of it. I'm going to send this around to everybody at the end of the meeting. The total cost in his estimate of today was $62,635, and that includes concrete aggregate material, which is the base for the path, and then there is chip sealing on top of that path to make it handicap accessible. There's asphalt work for the one handicapped space, and then there's oil and bluestone for the remaining spaces. So I'll send that around. It just came in shortly before the meeting this morning.
Jeff, are we doing any drainage with that project?
I'm sorry?
Drainage.
We don't have.
I think the thought, we've discussed this, and I think the thought was that we would start by just having pervious stone parking over in that area where there has been drainage problems in the city. We've discussed this many times before. The town engineer actually recommended some more extensive work with drainage structures, but the town board agreed to see how it worked as the green grew out and after the path was put in, and by using pervious stone parking, which I think is probably the most cost-effective thing to do and the way to start.
Is bluestone pervious?
Yeah, the parking, the non-handicapped parking would be pervious stone.
But that you said it was oil and bluestone, so I didn't know if that was.
That would be impervious if it's got.
Yeah, that's impervious. So I'm not sure I understand what's going on.
It could just be bluestone. But to my question, are any of these chargeable to CPF?
That's what I want to discuss.
The pathway.
I reached out to Scott Wilson, whose opinion was that they were not. I handed that. I read. I have the rules. I read them myself. I don't want to play lawyer here, and I was very happy to hand the issue over to John Jelnicki. I was just talking to him this morning. As I read it, it looked like it could come out of CPF funding. I gave it to John, and we talked a little bit this morning about it. And I think he's the appropriate
The reason I'm asking is because we'll have to identify funding sources for any of the work. And if they're chargeable expenses to CPF, I want to make sure that that's done to the greatest degree possible. I would think that the pathways within the park would be chargeable to CPF.
I believe they are. I read the plain language of the regulations.
Okay, so
what it says is
go back on that offline and work that out and make sure that we've identified the funding sources for the work to get done, because we're running.
I will copy you with the email that has the law. It's not very difficult to understand. It's
just been a while since I've read it, Jeff.
I know.
I think we need to make that determination.
Yes, we do.
If they're chargeable expenses to CPF, then we'll know that the chargeable portion is a funding line, and then the rest will either have to come out of contingency or surplus or potentially some budget line, but I'm not aware of any budget line that we have for that work.
I read it, and my take on it is that it's all capable of being charged against CPF. Okay. I read it carefully, but I gave it to John. He's the town attorney.
Right. So we'll double back on that offline.
Okay. I'll send around the numbers that I've gotten from Steve Lynch.
And the surface, because I'm not convinced that the
oil and bluestone is not. That's impervious. So.
Yeah. So I'm confused.
The
oil portion is what makes it impervious.
I think they use some oil when they just put stone on ground, but I'll check with Steve. He's the expert. We'll find out. I mean, our intention is to have it pervious. He was very clear from the beginning that we could not have grass parking there, that it would not work because of the drainage situation, and it would turn into mud. So okay. I'll check that out immediately and circulate these to the whole board. I'd like to figure this out and get moving on it.
We're running out of time because our next meeting is September. So
I know. I'd like to do that quickly. So at least I finally got all the numbers here. I wanted to also talk to you about the AMAC committee, which met on Friday. And Jim Brundage had sort of interesting observations that I think we're somewhat familiar with about what's going on with traffic due to COVID. And during the month of July, it looked like helicopter traffic was down 70%, jets were down 27%, seaplanes down 67%. So overall, the total operations were down 38%, and overall traffic year to date is down 30%. So we're seeing a fairly dramatic change in the number of operations.
But what were the dates, Jeff, for those that you took that from?
This is his report on basically on July, with the helicopter numbers down, the jets down, and the seaplanes down.
So we don't have an overall since COVID started.
He has an overall year to date. That's what he gave me.
But we only have through July, right? Not August.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
I think there's been an uptick in August, frankly, but.
Yeah.
Well, interestingly, what he said is that the traffic flow is sort of the opposite of what it is in a typical season. Typically, we'd have heavy traffic on the weekends and no activity during the week. And he said it's kind of a reverse pattern now.
People are going away on weekends
because a lot of people are now living here. So they're taking the traffic the other way to go to New York to have their meetings. And he said that the landing fees, which have dipped, are sort of offset by increases in fuel sales. And although the number of operations has dropped, the increase in fuel sales is likely due to the fact that larger airplanes, larger jets are coming in and fueling up here. There may be fewer operations, but there are more large planes. Blade's traffic has been low. He compared, I think, year to date of all helicopters, not just Blade. This year of 711 operations compared to this time last year of 2,300. So that's a very, very significant change in the traffic. And we talked a little bit about parking. We were wondering whether parking of airplanes was a problem on the airport. Apparently it is not. That should be somewhat encouraging to know that if we could reduce the quantity of traffic, the airport might function a little bit easier. And the committee on its own started to present some data that they said was draft data on complaints. You remember they were going to try to track down if there were any complaints that were coming in that were not related to HTO traffic, to our local airport traffic. I would say that met with fairly mixed reviews, and looks like it needs a little more work for them to do what they want to do. And I made it clear to them that, you know, if they want to communicate with the town board on whatever they're doing, they have to present, you know, questions or comments to the town board formally about anything they're doing. So I made it clear. We're having a discussion about, well, you know, are you telling us what to do? Does the town board tell our committee what to do? I think the answer is, you know, no, we don't give instructions to our committees of what we want them to do, but we do expect the committees to communicate with us on whatever they think whatever projects they're working on. So that was the end of the discussion. As I said, there was some backing and forthing on it. It looks like it's not really ready for prime time, to be perfectly blunt about it. The Housing Authority, I wanted to talk about two issues. One is the pilot agreements, these payments in lieu of taxes, where there's been some confusion on whether or not the school board has to be a party to the agreements that the Housing Authority negotiates with the town. John's been involved with this. We involved our tax council on it, and he previously indicated that yes, the school board is a party and they have to sign on to these agreements. just as a matter of sort of ordinary contracts. If you have a contract and you want somebody to be bound by it, typically they have to be a signatory on the contract or the agreement. So there was some concern at the housing authority that might make it that school districts could make it difficult to have affordable housing projects by holding up the pilot agreements. So we went back to him and got I got a formal legal letter from him, which I will circulate to the town board, and it basically says I think the gist of it is, yes, the school board should sign on, and if they don't, then the housing authority might have to agree to indemnify the town against any claim or loss, which is probably not an adequate solution for the town, since they're not generally in a position to have a lot of funds on hand if there was some kind of dispute or claim. It seems a more straightforward way to go to require the signatures, but I'll send this around to you and you guys can comment on this. We do have a housing authority meeting coming up this week, and I wanted to let you know that. On the affordable housing overlay for the for the 3 Mile Harbor property, I think we had talked about scheduling a public hearing or two, given that it's a time of COVID and it's an important issue that probably requires community input. That will require the preparation of some SECRA documents. Those are for the audience, that's the Environmental Quality Review Act that we operate under. And so I've asked Joanne to get that, to start producing those documents. We would have time because obviously we have to give notice for any public hearing. David's suggestion that we do a memorializing resolution is an alternative. If the town wanted to, bundle all the affordable housing sites together and not do a hearing quite as promptly, we could do a memorializing resolution. Not sure which way the town board wants to go on that. But when we last spoke, we were talking about a public hearing. So I've talked to Joanne Powell, talked to John Jilnicki about it, and that's the direction we're moving in. If anybody, has a preference one way or the other, they can reach out and we can discuss it.
Yeah, I don't know if bundling them all together is what I was getting towards, more just this one project, knowing that there would have to be applications to the state that are upcoming, and that it would just show a commitment of a town board, that is not necessarily binding. Yeah, it's memorializing that we could show there's a commitment to whatever agency they might have to be applying for as we get moving forward to all the appropriate SECRA, and then also, public hearings, however many there might be then too.
I think it might be more efficient if we do want to act on this AHO, which I believe I think the town board had a consensus to act on this one, that we just get it going. I think it's probably the most expeditious thing to do. So if I've asked Joanne to start working up the paperwork. She'd circulate the drafts and we could look at them, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to add to them and discuss them.
Can I ask just a practical question? So they haven't closed on that property, right? And I would imagine, right, correct? They haven't
I believe
closed.
That's correct, yeah.
So I would imagine that they would have to have a certain number of units in order to make it a viable project for them. So
depends on the funding source.
Yeah, but I know we just talked about whether the board should give them that number, or we should let them go through the planning process and let the planning board come back and tell them what they think the number is. But I mean, have they, Jeff, in any of your meetings, is there a number that they need to be at in order to make it?
No, they didn't. No, they haven't given me a number, and I think part of that is the fact that the plan really isn't finalized. So no, I haven't gotten a number. They may have something in mind. I don't know. I mean, my inclination would be that it's best to let that go to the planning board, where they can hear all the. They have a much broader review than we can give them, and they're going to get more facts and get a better idea. I think at some point we can easily weigh in on that, but it would be certainly, I mean, my view would be we need more facts before we just start throwing numbers around.
I agree with Jeff. I don't think we should be predetermining a number on the property.
I think we need more information. Yeah, I think we need more information. So it might be a good start to hold a couple of hearings, because we're undoubtedly going to get some input from the community, and that usually helps, even if it's, no matter whether it's good, positive, negative, whatever feedback, it's going to help us, I think, sharpen up what the issues are there. So I'll proceed as if we're going to go for a public hearing, as soon as we can get these documents together and circulated and people feel comfortable. We'd have time, obviously, because there's a time lag before you can have a public hearing. So I think we have a good amount of time to get the procedure in order and feel comfortable with it. I wanted to say, in reference to what Sylvia said, that I was on the webinar, the CCA webinar, and actually had a question in it, and it was very helpful, very clear, and everybody that presented did a very good job of speaking in plain English. Basically, it was sort of a plain English description of what CCA can be. And I just want to say again, I mean, I've supported this for more than two and a half years. This is a very, very powerful instrument for the town of East Hampton. Doesn't require us to build the infrastructure, but it empowers us to participate in these energy markets with much greater market power than we'd have on our own. On our own, we're really not able to do very much. So I just want to say it's very promising. And I am strongly in favor of enacting the enabling legislation. Things are moving forward in CCA, and it appears to be doing really very good things for Westchester County in its grouping of municipalities. So it's a very, very hopeful process. And just in case anybody in the audience doesn't know what that acronym is, it means Community Choice Aggregation, and it's a way that East Hampton and Southampton and Brookhaven and other villages can gang together their electricity demands so that they have a bigger market and can get better prices. So it was a very helpful.
And I think the most important part of that is not just more buying power, but it's to be able to direct that buying power towards renewables and to spur more investment and development of renewables, whether it be offshore, wind, solar, or hydroelectric.
Yes.
So, and I think that really is the town's major focus, is that we want to encourage a more sustainable and renewable energy source for our residents. And again, you have the ability to opt out if you don't want to participate. But I agree with you, Jeff. This is a really major and important step that I think the town needs to be moving forward with. And I have also supported it from the first I heard of it quite a few years ago. So
yeah, I thank you for that, because you tend to get so caught up in the mechanics of it that I did not make it clear enough that the reason it's so exciting to have market power is because we can buy renewable power and really get a huge leg up on meeting our renewable goals. It's really an effective mechanism. So I'm just delighted, and whoever thought it up was a brilliant, person who understood the energy markets. I also just wanted to say a word or two about the Black Lives Matter comment in the Montauk Brewery, because I agree with most of the comments that have been made about it. I just wanted to add that it's these kinds of issues, and their First Amendment rights on both sides. I mean, this small local company that's done a great job and does make a great product, and that's why they're doing well, has a right to express an opinion that they don't support racism. And I think it's a good thing, and it's to be applauded. And, at the same time, people that disagree do have a right to post things on Facebook, and they even have a right to boycott if they want. I don't think that's appropriate, but they can do it. But what I sense about the whole situation is that there's a tendency these days to simplify the narrative on these issues and make everything into an either or choice. Either you're, if you're against Black Lives Matter, then you're for the police. If you're for the police, you're against Black Lives Matter. And really, I don't see it as an either or choice. I don't think that racism is a comment against racism, which is we're really finally coming to see is very endemic and almost built into the foundation of our democracy. Slavery was a part of our Constitution. Is a serious problem, and it in no way pits anyone who expresses that view against good, solid community policing. The two are not mutually exclusive. They're not antithetical. You can have both. I support both. We are very, very lucky, and I'm very proud of our police chief, who I think is really focused on community policing and knowing the community, and just overall a very good guy. So I just want to maybe pour oil on the water and smooth things out and say, well, the one is not exclusive of the other. I mean, I worked with police for 4.5 years as a Manhattan district attorney. I knew police. They were my buddies. They were my witnesses. We worked on homicides together, and most of those police are just good Samaritans and good guys. And occasionally there's a bad one, and the good guys don't like the bad guys. And I mean guys and gals, because there are men and women who are in blue. So I just want to say that, that little comment that they put up in Montauk Brewing is not an attack on police in any way, shape, or form, especially in our community where we're so lucky to have real leadership from the top down that recognizes these problems and wants to work with the community. That's about what I have.
I appreciate those comments, particularly Jeff, and I think you framed that very well. We are quite fortunate here with our local police, and it's a shame that people get painted in broad brushes on either side of the discussion or on any topic to make gross generalizations based on the actions of few. I think is quite unfortunate. And I feel really bad for our police and police all over who, through the pandemic, were out there trying to keep people safe and the public, protecting the public, and putting themselves at risk when we knew very little about what this disease could do and how quickly it could spread. And they were on the front lines. And then we have this incredibly heinous action of George Floyd being basically murdered, caught on camera by a police officer, and now suddenly every police officer is painted with that brush. And I think that's incredibly sad that would happen. And by the same token, those who have worked for racial justice and to solve inequalities can get painted with a broad brush of some in that movement who might take actions or say things that don't represent the vast majority of people, and the whole movement then can get painted with that brush. So, I just think everybody needs to calm down a little bit, be more tolerant, and we need to respect other people's views, even if they differ. So, again, I thank you for your comments, Jeff. I think you put a really clear picture of what I think most of us here agree is the situation. And I thank you for your liaison report. And as I said at the onset of the meeting, New York's rate of infection is now below 1% for 10 consecutive days. And in the county, we're continuing to get good reports. It's 0.7% as of, Sunday's report on the 16th, with only 4 admissions countywide. Because of this continued progress, the governor has been relaxing some of the other restrictions. Notably, bowling is now allowed, and bowling alleys have reopened with certain cleaning safety protocols. Obviously, you need to be wearing masks and distancing, and those facilities are required to do additional cleaning of the equipment that's being used. It's been announced, as Kathy said earlier, that beginning August 24th, gyms and fitness centers will be able to open under strict protocols. Those requirements include 33% capacity, use of PPEs, distancing, a MERV 13 filter or better for air ventilation, and if they can't meet that criteria, alternative requirements. But as Kathy said, and also a health department inspection before or within 2 weeks of opening. There's 17 pages of guidance on that, and gyms and fitness areas were among those types of operations that I think were determined to be where conveying the disease is most susceptible under those circumstances. So again, it's a sign that we're making progress. We still need to, be careful. We still need to be wearing masks when we can't socially distance, and a basic hygiene, cleaning of surfaces, washing of hands, and we're going to continue to make good progress if we can just stick with those protocols. With the relaxing of restrictions and the additional progress being made here on Long Island, municipalities are starting to hold in-person public meetings again. And I think that we will be looking to do that here potentially beginning in September. Our next meeting is on the 1st of September. We'll make an assessment as to how that would take place. Obviously, we would want to restrict the number of occupants within the town hall meeting room to that which can be socially distanced. I think we would ask for folks that want to appear in public to sign up ahead of time. And we would also continue, I think, with the call-in option for those who are not comfortable appearing in public. But that's something that I believe we're looking to institute fairly soon. Again, we're going to pay attention to the progress we make against the disease. There was
Can I ask a question there, Peter?
Sure, absolutely.
So, when I had spoken to, for instance, Lisa LaCorey and Peter Flinker and Ray Tobias, one of the beauties of them being able to give us an update, which wasn't in the original schedule at this point, was because they could do it remotely and it's so easy. So I would hope that we would, as you mentioned, with some of the folks be giving public comment that way, that we could have some of our topics done remotely as well, so that people could call.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hybrid. Again, not everybody's going to be comfortable coming in person. We don't need to have folks presenting necessarily in public. We do have the smart board, which presentation can be broadcast on in the meeting room for those who are in person attending, and it's live streamed on LTV, so people can watch remotely as well. So, and I think this hybrid sort of format will continue for the foreseeable future. I suspect that the governor will continue to extend the relaxation of open meetings law for the foreseeable future as well. And I do suspect also that because technology has evolved to the point where it is, that the open meetings law itself will likely be revised through legislative means to allow for remote comment, and that it not be required that folks attend in person. So we did have it's on the paper this past week, a full page ad imploring the town board, specifically the supervisor and the planning board secretary, to improve cellular communication service within the town. As many know, we've historically had certain areas within town where there were dead zones and poor coverage due to topography and geographical location of existing infrastructure. That has only become a greater situation since the population has increased. In the summer times, the last several summers, we've noticed that cellular calls, the system became somewhat overloaded. And with COVID and so many people moving here on a more permanent basis and working remotely, that the bandwidth across all of that infrastructure, whether it be wireless communications or over internet provider Altice, that those systems have become quite overloaded. They just don't have capacity. Altice has been stringing fiber optic cable all over town, and I think to date have doubled the number of nodes, communication nodes within their system, or that's their plan. And I think that work is expected to be completed by early September. And in addition, there have been a number of steps that the town board has taken as well. Back on July 2nd, we hired John Huber, Esquire, who has extensive experience in cellular communications to assist the town. And, I think it's come to the point where we need to have a more comprehensive approach to cellular communications coverage. And on August 6th, we passed a resolution to put out an RFP, a request for proposals of wireless telecommunication facility consulting services to help advise the town as just to how to go about developing a comprehensive cellular coverage plan. East Hampton Village has expressed some interest in partnering with the town on this topic. So we'll have some additional conversations with them, possibly establishing a memorandum of understanding to move forward jointly, as we have on some other projects, such as septic rebates and whatnot. Also, the town board's been committed to the idea that our cellular communications code needs to be updated. It's been a number of years, I think even maybe 2 decades since it was updated. Does not reflect all the most recent FCC regulation changes. And I think we all agree that our code needs to reflect those and really be renewed, brought up to the 21st century and the state of the situation now with that technology. We have pending projects in town. We discussed at work session the establishment of a COW, a COW, which is a cell on wheels, which is a little bit of a misnomer. It's a temporary tower. In this case, would be ballasted and not on a trailer. And that project would be in the Stephen Hands Path, Route 27 corner, where it would serve the Wainscott near Village and perhaps even portions of Sagaponic, improving coverage through that corridor where there's currently a dead zone. And there's also discussions. American Tower has an application that they haven't fully brought forward yet, and that's in Springs at the Girl Scout camp. T-Mobile has an application, a pending project at Home Sweet Home, also in Wainscott, for a rooftop cupola to add antennas as well. There's already an existing antenna array inside of a cupola there, but I guess they're expanding that as well. There are approved projects, excuse me, that are pending or in construction, which include Montauk Community Church at 850 Montauk Highway, and new cellular wireless AT&T at the Northwest Fire Station. This is right behind the newly opened Northwest Fire Substation. On the old brush dump site, that application's for a 185-foot monopole. Has received approval. It was approved in February. It's under construction now. It's not online yet, but it will be soon. I don't have the completion date in front of me. Also, Wainscott Northwest Road, 111, Wainscott Northwest Road. There's a 130-foot tall lattice tower that's going up, and that will be built by Verizon and be conveyed to the town. Emergency Services Communication Facility at Springs Fire Department is under review. Planning Board did make a positive declaration in May, but while that tower is currently, the application is for emergency communications and not personal wireless at this time. If it did get approval, it could potentially also house cellular communications. Additionally, there's a new tower that the town is building in Montauk by the dump that will carry emergency communications, but also can co-locate personal wireless as well. So we understand with this huge influx and increase of usage that the existing infrastructure has been put together piecemeal at best and does not serve the number of people who are currently here and using data at unprecedented levels due to the pandemic. So we ask for the public's patience as we work to improve communications. We understand how frustrating that can be for those who work and how potentially dangerous it could be in an emergency situation to not have coverage. After more than 2 years of review and negotiations, the town board is nearing agreement with Orsted on host community benefits and easement agreements. And I think once that final language is finalized, they will be presented at upcoming work session so the public can be aware of what's been negotiated and what the terms and conditions of those agreements would be prior to the town board taking a vote on them. And I think that's it for my liaison report. We have items to discuss in executive session, but first we have some resolutions.
Yes, so the first one is Resolution 792. It is to approve the Camp Hero Sewer District, whereas the septic pumping system that serves Camp Hero Sewer District is in need of immediate repair due to pump failure. Resolved that the town board authorizes the septic pumping and pump repairs needed. And the expenditures will be in the amount of $9,000.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Pass and carry.
Resolution 793 is a budget modification for emergency management. The town board instructs the budget office to make the following modification to the 2020 operating budget for the purposes of upgrading COVID-19 instructional signs around town. And they're taking $5,000 from the aid funding contingency to emergency preparedness subcontractors.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. Resolution 794 is a memorializing resolution to support the designation of EHVOR, which is the East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue and Auxiliary, as emergency rescue squad. This would enable their members to install and use the green flashing lights when they're reporting to a call. And I just want to read this. Whereas the East Hampton Town Volunteer Ocean Rescue and Auxiliary Squad has responded to water emergencies in the town of East Hampton 24 hours a day, 365 a year since 2003, answering approximately 40 calls annually in recent years. Whereas the squad performs invaluable community service assisting those in need at beaches along 70 miles of town shoreline. Whereas the squad functions in a professional manner, its members participating in ongoing year-round training, enabling the squad to respond to multiple agency calls and assist other emergency response organizations, including the U.S. Coast Guard, Marine Patrol, fire departments, and dive teams. And whereas New York State Legislature has passed legislation introduced by Assemblyman Fred Thiel and Senator Ken LaValle, which would enable the town of East Hampton to formally designate East Hampton Volunteer Ocean Rescue Squad as an emergency rescue first aid squad pursuant to the general municipal law. And the town of East Hampton has urged the governor to sign such legislation into law. And whereas the formal designation of the town would enable East Hampton, East Hampton Ocean Rescue members to use green light on their vehicles for finding emergency, thus allowing them to quickly provide help and potentially a matter of life and death. Therefore, the town results East Hampton declares its support for state legislation, the intent to make formal designation of the squad as emergency rescue and first aid squad, and declares support and gratitude for the professionalism, expertise, and service of East Hampton volunteer ocean rescue squad members. And do I have a second?
Second.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed and carried. I just want to thank all those volunteer members. It's a really amazing group of individuals who take it upon themselves in their free time to train and to be able to respond to emergencies on the water. And I know they've done a number of rescues and recoveries over the years, so we thank them for their ongoing dedication to the community. Resolution 2020-795 is to retain an environmental engineer for the South Fork export cable. And this is to assist the town of East Hampton with environmental engineering through consulting and aspects of the town's authorization of the South Fork Wind Farms export cable. And this is to hire FPM Group Limited at an initial cost not to exceed $5,000.
Second.
Can we have discussion on this, please?
Of course.
I just wanted to say that this is a resolution to retain a good engineering firm, I believe, to help us evaluate the impacts to soil or the handling of soil that's removed, in light of the fact that we know that there were PFOs in the vicinity of where the cable route on Beach Lane would go. I do think that is a good idea. I think we are reacting appropriately to comments that we've heard from the public, or comments that were developed in the negotiation process in the Article 7 in hiring this engineer. My objection to this is the same that I've had from the start on the whole concept of the Beach Lane access, and that is that we should not be negotiating and deciding the issue of the Beach Lane access or the community benefits until they both pass through the required environmental review of the Article 7. And in some way, this is an indication of why environmental review is important, because as we've gone on, we've learned about potential impacts. I think and the presence of PFOs is one of those impacts that we became aware of. So while I think this is a good idea, I think it would still be best to complete the environmental review of all the issues so that they're all handled at one time in an orderly way, and not doing it piecemeal like this.
Thanks, Jeff. I don't consider this piecemeal. I think it's just a very different approach to the entire issue. And again, just to reiterate what we've been saying all along, is that the negotiation of community benefits as well as the easement agreement, that all of that would be contingent upon successfully completed an Article 7 certification. So it's not like you're giving anything away prior to full and comprehensive environmental certification. So I just want to make that clear. So do I have a second?
I seconded it, and I want to just say, I've learned a lot from Jeff, and one of them is I want to know before I go. So this is one of those issues that I want to know before I go.
The best way to know is to let the Article 7 review do it.
There are a lot of ways to know, Jeff. I hate to say that. There are a lot of ways.
I don't think we're gonna change anybody's mind here.
I know.
We should just move on with the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. And you're a no, Jeff?
I'm an abstain. I'm sorry. I wanted a roll call.
Abstain. Passed and carried. Resolution 796 is a budget modification for Camp Hero Sewer District. This would be to add $9,000 to the revenue line, the appropriation of surplus, add $16,000 to the revenue line, interfund revenue to be paid back to the general fund, so it's advancing funds, and add $25,000 to the expense line for repairs.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. We have several items to discuss in exec session. We have litigation, We have contracts, and I think that personnel.
Okay, I make a motion that we go into exec session. It is now 10 till 2, 2:30.
Sounds good.
Okay, at 2:30 to consider litigation contracts and personnel matters.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. I'll send the members the link. And thank you very much. And everyone stay safe, be well.
So, Peter, just
I'll talk to you offline on that.
okay, great.
Everybody.
All right, see you at 2:30. Thank you.